Well, hello there. Hi, how are you? How do you do? And welcome back once again to the official English broadcast of the Overwatch Pacific Championship. Here to steer you through what will be the final match of this first of 4 round robins of the tournament is, of course, myself, Matt Pixie Carroll, and here to my left, your right, is Matt Smite Ross. What are we expecting out of this one?
Well, first, we're going to see SunSister. They're going to be playing up against DeToNator.GOLD, and both of these teams, unfortunately, have not managed to pick up a win just yet, but after tonight, one of them will.
Yeah, we don't. It's unfortunate we aren't quite able to see the full length one of these for this team here, SunSister, because Elu has a friend on DeToNator.GOLD, so yeah, power of friendship, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this friendly rivalry has to extend towards DeToNator.GOLD.
We assume it's a friendly rivalry. They could by now be bitter enemies, but here is, of course, DeToNator.GOLD, the team they're going to be coming up against. So, yeah, once again, a team yet to pick up a win, and it's really hard to actually judge the relative strength of these two teams, despite them now having played every team but each other, purely because they've each lost, and in equally spectacular fashion in some situations, and then in much tighter fashion in others. Dare I say, though, I feel SunSister are slightly favored coming into this purely because of their performance both earlier today and yesterday as well.
SunSister have most recently had their toughest matchups as well. Both Blank and Flash Wolves were, today and last night, respectively. So they've got the most recent, if I've got to say, being thrown in the deep end experience, right? They can be learning from how they played against those teams, and really, they should definitely take away the good that came from those matches. Again, even though they were only 0-3, they still had a lot of promise. They were capturing points back during the control maps. They were also getting past the first points during Assault. I mean, yes, that does actually happen quite commonly, but against Blank, against Flash Wolves, that's pretty promising, and I don't think DeToNator did the same.
Oh, it's really hard to kind of judge the relative strength of these teams. Specifically because, like I said, as much as SunSister have had good performances now, relatively speaking, against Blank just before, and also earlier on this weekend against Flash Wolves, because of that, SunSister look good coming into this. But DeToNator.GOLD had a very odd kind of match against Blank as well, where actually it looked kind of close. That was, though, on the very first day of gameplay. So we've kind of chalked a lot of that up to day one jitters, given the rest of Blake's performance. So maybe that is the case, or maybe it is actually a signal that DeToNator.GOLD have something that they haven't really pulled out since then, and that they actually can take it to some of these other teams and have just as much promise as SunSister. It's really, really hard to say, and there's no way to find out until we actually see these two teams come head to head.
A lot of the strength that came from DeToNator.GOLD as well, specifically in their match against Blank Esports, was Amican on Farah. And that was a huge issue for Blank. Eventually, they were able to cap out, 3-2 against them on Oasis. But DeToNator ran the exact same thing on every single map on that map.
Well, this here is, of course, SunSister. For those of you just joining us, we did see them before, but this is XQQ, Zetman, Elu, Kira 44, Mollison, Odin, Kern, and of course, XQQ, this being his first weekend of play, actually replacing previous team founder, in fact, Night Owl.
And this is going to be one of the first times where they're not playing against one of the top tier teams like Flash Wolves or Blank with XQQ in the lineup, right? It's very much possible that some of their previous losses with XQQ, they could have actually taken a victory. This guy has been a very massive swing in their performance so far. They've showed promise against teams against like Flash Wolves and Blank, where previously a lot of fans and even ourselves thought that it was going to be a very one-sided match. But XQQ, hey, he proved us wrong. So did the rest of SunSister, but the addition of this player has made miles of difference.
Yeah, he's really changed everything right now for this team. And he is a lot of the reason I say now that SunSister, I feel, are a little bit favored coming into this up against DeToNator.GOLD. I mean, that will be put to the test, and also DeToNator.GOLD haven't actually played a game since early yesterday, so they've actually had a good bit of time to go away, have now watched SunSister play 2 games since then, both of those being the game against Flash Wolves and then the game against Blank, so they can themselves have maybe tried to take away some lessons from that and see SunSister's relatively increased strength now. So DeToNator could well have also done prep of their own for this matchup. So just because SunSister are looking more promising doesn't mean that DeToNator are just going to come into this as flat as they have been before. They can definitely change things up. Let's take a quick look at DeToNator's lineup as well now. Of course, we have Delave and Anakin, the two offense players. We talk about Anakin often being a Pharah superstar, Samurai D, Saihate, Yoshiharu, and Dotalov. And again, I kind of miss the long intros because Yoshiharu is a fisherman.
Yeah, that's right. He's the fisherman player, but also another player that I want to highlight. Yeah, everyone hypes up Anakin as being this great Pharah player. Also, not just Pharah, but plays a lot of other offense characters as well. But Yoshiharu does his job as a tank fantastically. Very often, or probably 90% of his games, he's the one playing Diva. And if they're up against a powerhouse of a soldier, the likes of Zonda, Eat You Up, those types of players, he will actually shut them down during their ults, and even in the impactful fights that they're playing out of. He'll always know when he needs to fly into their face, get that defense matrix up, harass them, keep them out of the fight for the longest time. Unfortunately, during a lot of those fights, the rest of the team's play during the team fight means that they end up losing, but Yoshiharu himself is always doing his job correctly.
Yeah, and that is actually a signal that they can improve. I mean, it sounds kind of odd to say it, but doing things wrong means that if you do them right, you will be better. That's just the nature of the beast. SunSister, we don't necessarily feel like they have particular things they need to clean up. We feel like they just need to start playing a little bit better on an individual skill basis, which is actually a much harder ask than, don't make these same mistakes. Now, they are still making mistakes, sure, but I feel like if DeToNator have also cleaned up their mistakes, then this could be not just even, but actually DeToNator favored. Let's address that map pick, though, because it was, of course, Lijiang Tower. This is SunSister home team, so that's their pick. We've now seen them 3 times in a row actually pick that when they had that home advantage. And the last 2 times we've seen that were against Flash Wolves and Blank. And it was what made a lot of these series quite tight. It was a map that allowed XQQ to really shine on specifically McCree, but also other DPS. So do we maybe feel like this is just playing to their strengths and this speaks to SunSister being favored?
So, I mean, you look at the strengths and like what stands out for both teams right now. You mentioned XQQ, especially good on the McCree, especially. So I think Control Center definitely goes in the favor of SunSister. But however, you look at Anakin, his Pharah play, and also Yoshiharu is going to be flying around on Diva as well. I think on Gardens, that might be where DeToNator might take it out. I mean, as long as Anakin is able to deal with whatever hit scan that SunSister brings out, it's probably going to be on XQQ, whether it's Soldier, McCree, or I mean, maybe even Tracer. I mean, not traditionally a hit scan, even though technically her bullets are hit scan. Not something you pick to deal with a Pharah. Anakin will be all over that. It's very likely both teams will actually run a Pharah as well. And if I'm a betting man, then Anakin's going to win that Sky battle.
Yeah. Well, are you a betting man?
No, I don't have enough money to bet on the game.
Because if I were a betting man, I would put my money on XQQ. I would put my money on XQQ and how he's able to play that DPS as well. And I know we're sort of speaking to the relative strengths of these two teams. Like I kind of said, I feel like Lijiang is actually something that favors XQQ maybe just a little bit more, and he does also play out that Pharah very, very nicely. So maybe it's just going to be down to, well, who's the better Pharah? Is it XQQ or is it Anakin? And that's a very hard question to answer. You know, we're asking that question in a vacuum, and like I said earlier, we're just not going to know until these two teams actually face off against one another. But if that's the defining question of this game, it's one that's only really going to define it on Night Market and to a lesser extent Gardens, because Gardens is probably the map that has the easier options to avoid the Pharah and take it out of the picture, which means it's a place where XQQ, if Anakin is winning the Pharah battle, could just go, no, having none of it, let's pick McCree, let's go around the side, let's do something else. Or vice versa, Anakin could do exactly that if it is XQQ being more dominant. So even that isn't the be-all, end-all of this matchup, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say there.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to see on Gardens, specifically SunSister, run something like McCree, or even more of a death ball composition where they do run and take the tight spaces, because Anakin will win the Sky battle. And let's not forget, they do favor running Anakin alone in the Sky on Pharah. They don't usually run a Mercy with him. This time, they are going to run XQQ on the Pharah, but Anakin, he's going to have the Mercy. It's actually going to be the reverse. XQQ is going to be the lone Pharah in the Sky.
Yeah, that's a little bit different, but SunSister, they weren't quite able to execute on this when they played it against Blank, when they had the pocket Mercy while SunSister didn't. So let's see if it'll actually work out for them, because already XQQ, the lower of the two, and failing to land the shots, it's kind of forcing Kira to keep the orb on him.
But the reason that SunSister are now winning the fight is because XQQ is one man in the sky, while DeToNator are committing 2 people in the sky. Saihade and Anakin aren't able to take out XQQ, which means SunSister are going to win the ground battle, take the point, and easily take the lead. Now, this wasn't a 100% one-sided fight, so SunSister will only have a slight advantage in the ultimates, but they've got a much better ground team simply because of numbers.
DeToNator.GOLD just rushing the point here on the far side of it, and good movement there by Anakin trying to get around the far side of this, trying to just force SunSister back off it completely if they so can help it, and it's kind of working. SunSister are beaten well back, getting a good pick on Kira, but here's going to be the trades back now as they take out a whole bunch. Getting Saihade as well is going to be the key one, because that means no res, which he was exceedingly close to. And DeToNator, despite forcing SunSister off the point, didn't actually cap it, and then SunSister got the favorable fight. So that's just more time and more ult charge for them.
I mean, the fight went for so long that SunSister were able to come back as well. Now, especially the big thing that you mentioned as well, Saihade not getting the res off, died before he could even get to 100%. Now, SunSister, they're sitting nice and comfy, but your ult advantage doesn't mean a lot if Saihade can nullify the ults you use simply with the res. You need to target him burst.
Anakin continuing to lay on the pressure. Mollis only getting 1, but again, it's the key one. He actually got Saihade out of the fight, so again, no res. If SunSister find a few more kills here, which they are now as they take out Yoshiharu and Dodolov takes a dive, they're just out-fragging. They're straight up out-fragging, and the fact that they're always picking Saihade means that DeToNator are never going to find the avenue to get that big tempo swing.
Something that is working in DeToNator's favor, if only very, very, very slightly, is that Kira has been playing a little bit dangerously, right? DeToNator can jump on top of them, take him out of the fight, but they don't have a heavy dive composition because they're committing 2 members up into the sky. But there's the barrage.
Hello, there we go. Anakin finding the angle for that one as they pick off Mollis as well. This is going to be the ultimate out of Kira, but no such luck for XQQ as he gets shut right down.
Saihade.
It's really back and forth. Saihade, though, again getting picked off means again no opportunity for a good tempo raise. And DeToNator, despite getting some favorable trades, haven't actually cut the point yet. So even as they get it, it's 99%, and SunSister only need to win 1 fight.
SunSister used a lot of ultimates during that fight, though, hoping to just flat out win the game there. And if anything, it's a bit of a blessing that Saihade got killed before he could use his res, because now he's going to have it available for this next fight. They're still throwing bodies onto the point without actually having enough members there.
Go ahead with the sound barrier, and they actually use the tac visor as well. So if anything, that helps SunSister, because DeToNator actually forced out 3 ultimates that they didn't really need to use, so SunSister are able to kind of even up the ultimates. They are still getting members picked off though, so that's the unideal side of what's going on.
Remember though that doesn't mean a lot. Your ultimate advantage will mean nothing if Saihade can just resurrect everyone right at the end of the fight. Now SunSister, they've proven that they can take Saihade out at the start of a lot of fights, but they don't have a lot of ults to go. Mollis doesn't have tactical visor. XQQ close to his pulse bomb, he can actually find it, but again, it's all about this kill here.
Oh, once again, XQQ has the target section right on top of Saihade. The trade back does come through, but this is going to be the commit for SunSister as the sound barrier trying to keep the team alive, but it's not actually working. They were all too low, and the sound barrier doesn't provide them enough mileage. Saihade's respawned, so even if it swings in SunSister's favor right here, right now, he could still come back in time for a res, and even then, just not going to happen. They have now drawn all the ultimates out of DeToNator, so if they pick Saihade 1 more time, they should be able to win this next fight.
Yoshiharu, though, channeling that diva that I was just talking about, just sitting right on top of Mollis, making that tactical visor completely nullified. There's no Anubis, so at least they weren't committing 2 ultimates to it. But what if SunSister got to work with tank ultimates, and the next closest one, probably Kira on that Transcendence. XQQ has to go big with the pulse bomb, specifically on Saihade.
Hello, that's too many people on the point there. SunSister getting capped that they really shouldn't have got. There's going to be a sticky down. Saihade isn't down there. There they go, and the res out of the picture. I said they only needed to do it 1 more time, and they've just done it there with 2 members already down before that either. So Saihade looking for too much of a value res there as SunSister looks set to clean off the point here. And even though DeToNator did hold it all the way up to 99%, SunSister's execution was actually fantastic throughout all of that, and that is a well-deserved point on the board.
The one thing that I've got to fault them for, though, is that one fight that was losing basically from the very start of the fight, where a lot of members got picked off. SunSister still threw not only ultimates at the point, but also a few additional bodies. They had Winston just running around the point as well. Zetman just essentially giving another 500 hit points worth of ultimate charge to DeToNator. So that's something that DeToNator can capitalize on, and in fact they did, because they got it up to 99%. But SunSister still overall in the end managing to win that, and a lot of that comes down to the fact that Saihade was being taken out at the start of every fight because he just had nowhere to be. Wasn't safe in the skies, wasn't safe on the ground.
Yeah, Pretty much. I suppose, though, we can answer one of the questions we came into this one with, and that was XQQ versus Anakin. Anakin won it. XQQ was the first to change off, but it didn't matter anyway. They're going to get more mileage out of XQQ again as he goes onto that McCree. Now let's see if Anakin can actually match him.
Now, double tank coming out from DeToNator. No Diva pick this time, so they're running for a little bit more DPS. Mostly Anakin on that McCree to try to get a pick.
It's one back and forth, though, because they say trade one back onto Samurai D, so no front line. Oh, Anakin, he gets it again. Frags out XQQ, but Kira going down means, getting the kill, rather. I don't know if DeToNator can really keep this one going, even as Anakin is well set up on the side here. SunSister, who is set up on the point. Good sleep from Zetman, but there was an answer sleep there as well, so they just kind of both had a nap together. And SunSister are the ones set up here. DeToNator struggling to find the angle to assault the point.
The Reinhardt battle becomes completely different once there's a McCree on both sides. Flashbang can cancel that barrier.
Whoa! Threading the needle there. Just Zetman gets the Earth Shatter through behind. That was fantastic. Just kind of circumvented the Reinhardt shield altogether. Anakin channeling the Deadeye got less than nothing for it. He only got Kira, but the fight was already lost. So SunSister now very well set up on this point.
It's always a bad situation when committing ultimates to a fight. You don't actually win, just sent you even further behind. There's already 33% on the board. SunSister have the defensive ultimate with that sound barrier. Doesn't survive on the point. Yoshiharu doesn't even have his Graviton, which is probably the best thing they want right now.
Oh, quick fingers from Zetman. Shield up to block that Earth Shatter at the last second as he jumps in front of it, and already the trading back to take out the members of DeToNator. That's a great Deadeye out of XQQ. There's a bit of a counterpoint to Anakin's earlier, and now cleaning up the rest of the kills. Delev, he's going to recall to keep himself alive, but it's only going to be for a short amount of time. He needs to be sure to not go down because these trickle respawns will really hurt DeToNator with SunSister already ticked up to 60%.
Both of these teams don't seem to favor the style Blank and Flash Wolves as well like to play, which is going right up to that door and holding them through that choke point. They like to sit on the point, and so far it's working out more for SunSister.
All right, once again, another Deadeye to come out. It's high noon for the side of DeToNator, and both of these teams kind of in different time zones right now, but again, nothing really got for it. They did force them off to get the point cap, and that's a good pulse bomb actually to get out Zetman. The trader's back there from the DPS, but DeToNator are just going to get time on this point here. That's all that really counts right now, even as the trades come through, because SunSister need to get a lot more kills if they want to get back onto that point right now.
It's all about how little DeToNator can use to actually still win this fight. They're still holding on to a lot of their ultimates, especially that Graviton. They're going to need it in the next fight to build up their ults, and this is sneaky.
That's the one. Throws it straight down. They catch 3 in it. Now they're trying to get the angle on them to kill them all. They actually don't really get much, only getting Kira, but they're sure to force Molotov out of the mech. Now finally closing it out on Zetman as the rest of SunSister just went up, having no part of that and hung well back. And I think rightfully so. They still have plenty of time, but they are going to be fighting past an Earth Shatter.
And the best thing about that Graviton is it built up Samurai D's ultimate. They're going to have Earth Shatter available. It's DeToNator this time who are channeling the strategy where they move towards the door, hold at the choke point. A lot of ults, a ton of ults for SunSister right now. They could literally just brute force through the point. DeToNator need to be aware.
Oh, surely they're going to be able to get it. That's a great Graviton to kick it off, and the self-destruct sat on top of it. Oh no, indeed. Poor DeToNator, completely destroyed by that one. They can't really muster a defense here, and I would actually rather they just back right up. They're committing a nano boost onto Samurai D, but he's having to retreat. He's not going to do any damage with that, so DeToNator just waste an ultimate on a lost fight. They're committing an Earth Shatter as well. They're trying to get the members back in, but Elu quick fingers got the sound barrier out before that went down, so SunSister are set up on this point again. There's a trade onto Zetman though. Good work by Anakin, who has got a Deadeye, and actually it's working out for DeToNator. SunSister didn't close out the kills on Samurai D, so that Earth Shatter got the mileage. DeToNator hold on to this point, and SunSister are getting pushed back.
Well, I mean, the fact that DeToNator all died at the start of that previous fight means that they actually had enough time to come right back onto the point with the reinforcements. SunSister didn't push fast enough, and now they're in a Graviton.
Yeah, and oh wow, their own combo there is going to be delayed, and yeah, that is indeed it. Also, actually, interesting interaction there. Samurai D charged into Zetman to stop Zetman from charging out of the Graviton. Quite clever moves there, securing them all for delayed to clean up. 1-to-1. I feel like SunSister were actually favored for most of that, but not closing out that one key fight there. And also, let's not make any mistakes here. Losing the points to DeToNator in the first place. I mean, if you lose it, it doesn't matter if you look like the better team on paper.
I mean, also DeToNator showed signs of weakness where they were actually committing ultimates to fights where theoretically they shouldn't be winning. It turns out that in one of those fights they did actually win, but throwing a nano boost onto a Reinhardt who's A, not doing any damage, and B, is just shielding himself anyway, so the damage reduction isn't even a part of it, is flatly just a waste. And unfortunately, like, SunSister weren't able to take advantage of that, but it could actually absolutely happen in this match here.
No DPS mirror this time is XQQ on the Soldier while Anakin sticks to the McCree. See how the opening skirmish plays out.
Look at how accurate XQQ is, but I mean, like, ripping down that shield. Both teams running the Reinhardt composition as well. Anakin is there to shut down the shield with a flashbang onto Zetman, so they have to constantly be aware of that, but it's DeToNator who've put themselves on the point.
They're the ones on the point, so it's the onus is on SunSister to assault it. They're going to try and get onto it quickly with Zetman now, as DeToNator already kind of capping up the point here, and they get the kill onto Zetman, so it shouldn't be any follow-up to come out delayed. I don't know what happened there. I think he accidentally took a dive, but with XQQ going down, SunSister just don't really have anything to go on if they want to go for the rest of that offensive. So they're going to back off, rightfully so, and just kind of give the point over to DeToNator.
And a lot of that was trying to walk through a choke point as Reinhardt. Zetman just basically opened himself up to a flashbang. No shield just meant such an easy kill for DeToNator to pick up on. It's just the strength that McCree will bring into these death ball compositions. Look at them. They're all literally standing in the courtyard together. Now they've got a big ultimate advantage. Graviton should be used to build everyone else's up.
Yeah, and they're just going to catch them all in this room. They haven't got anyone yet. They finally close out Odinkun as Elu forced the sound barrier there, but they got nothing for it, and now the rest are getting cleaned up. DeToNator did it to commit another 2 ultimates to make that happen, but a win is a win, and they still had the ultimate advantage.
It's a good reaction, though. You see that the sound barrier is out, and you say, okay, look, we've got to commit more to this to make our first investment actually worth it. So while it's an uneven trade in favor of SunSister, they still hold the point for much longer. DeToNator actually won the fight, and importantly, because Yoshiharu opened up with the Graviton, the DPS ults are now available. Anakin and Dalal both have their ultimates.
XQQ does have his though, and they've got the nano boost to back it up, so that could be leverage for them to take this point. They need to pick off some very key targets for it though. They're going to go ahead and commit right into that. Oh, and a nice Earth Shatter is going to stop up the Deadeye being channeled by Anakin. Good trade back out of delay, but that's all they're really getting, as all the members of DeToNator being cleaned on up by XQQ and Co. And this should be SunSister striking back to take the point off their fellow Japanese squad.
And that's a 6-man wipe there. Now, SunSister did have a lot of ults simply because of the efficient trades that they were going for, getting a sound barrier to force out even more ultimates from DeToNator. So they will take the point, but they had to use a lot of ults to actually get it. Graviton is coming back. They need to get the most value out of this possible. It's going to be the hardest fight for them right now, to try and win this fight with just a Graviton. Build up XQQ's ult. Although, actually, Mollis could just throw a pulse bomb in.
That's a nice Graviton, and yes, straight in with Mollis as well. And that's the second wipe they need. And that's often the most important defense to secure. They don't really have many ultimates up for this one because the wipe happened so quickly. They didn't get the charge ultimates off that Graviton.
Yeah, the difference is because an ultimate was used to do the majority of the damage, now DeToNator do actually sit at a very slight ultimate advantage. But what are they going to combo with? The only thing they've got is Nanoburst. Samurai D will be the likely target of that, but he needs to actually be in range, right? And Earth Shatter is needed for that. Hey, he just got it with 1 Fire Strike, so maybe this is the time for him to go in.
Maybe indeed. Kira's also low, so he's going to have to commit the grenade onto himself. There's a good flank here coming out of Mollis though, and XQQ as well. This is actually quite good positioning. They're going to try and negate the push by getting in behind it, but it doesn't work, as actually SunSister was split up and DeToNator took advantage of it, take out one half, then the other, and an extremely clean fight for them.
And Anakin was actually the target of that nano boost that time. And I mean, yes, sometimes it's great to throw it onto a Reinhardt, but hey, you've got Anakin who can actually hit these targets with his left click, and McCree does a surprising amount of damage as well, and it also allowed him to build up to his Deadeye. Now they've got a great ult advantage, and sound barrier is popped.
Sound barrier popped indeed to open it out already, really just trying to keep people alive. Mollis is low. He's got to get himself to a health pack. XQQ opening up, but not really finding anything for it. Where is that Deadeye coming from? Zetman's the only one who gets caught out of it, and the rest of the team were lucky to be in cover because no one really had eyes on Anakin, but it doesn't matter anyway. DeToNator are going to clean up the rest of the fight, even though the Deadeye only got 1. That was just good positioning out of DeToNator, using the advantage that they had, and SunSister fighting valiantly, but actually DeToNator's execution was the better.
Fighting really valiantly. That's just a big example as well of DeToNator recognizing, look, okay, we've used up a lot of ultimates just to hold the point for the majority of the match. I mean, they got up to about 80% or so, and eventually there was no more gas left in the tank. So SunSister just had more ultimates at them. Yes, try and win that fight, but eventually you're just going to lose due to ultimates. So they hand the point over, not intentionally of course, but recognizing that that's likely going to be the case. And so then they come back with ultimates of their own and actually get a very, very efficient trade. I mean, they walk into the first fight, get wiped by, yes, Graviton and Pulse Bomb, but then they come back in because that was a very efficient trade, 2 for 0.
Yeah.
They have way more ultimates in the next fight.
That was all the ultimates that SunSister had in that situation. Back onto control point. Back onto...
Control center.
Control center, yeah, I nearly had it. I was thinking control tower, but whatever. In any case, opening skirmish, last time around this went the way of SunSister. I'm kind of still expecting the same result.
Yeah, I mean, again, watch for the McCrees, watch their flashbangs over the Reinhardt shields. So XQQ playing a little bit differently, not looking for that, instead trying to shut down DeLaV on the sidelines, making sure his Tracer is basically ineffective, and it's been working so far. DeLaV has been hiding this entire time.
Yeah, even Anakin has kind of been hiding too. And suddenly, though, they open it right out as Samurai D and Anakin both take out their counterparts, and DeToNator go on the attack without any hesitation, absolutely routing SunSister.
And here's the difference between the two teams. DeToNator will hold you at this door. They've got a big ult advantage. In fact, Anakin, from doing the majority of the damage in there, has Deadeye available. Now, this is something that can be stopped, but SunSister don't have D.Va. They don't have someone... Oh, no, that's a lie. They have Mollis. Mollis can just fly into this with Defense Matrix.
But this is going to buy time for them to get something like an Earth Shadow or a Graviton up, which are the ultimates you really want to use to try and hold this choke point. So they should be able to get an Earth Shadow by the time SunSister looks to really assault this point.
Really early Deadeye, though, and like it only bought them a little bit of time. Earth Shadow is available. Zetman has to be on point with that right click he has so far. Can he do it once more?
Oh, great angle for Samurai D, kind of weaving it around the side, and again, unrelenting. DeToNator follow up without a moment's hesitation, absolutely wipe the floor, and this time with the Graviton, they should still be able to hold at that exact same spot.
And Earth Shatter is one of the most efficient ultimates because, I mean, look at Anakin. He's already almost back up to that Deadeye. The rest of the team has their ults simply because it's free damage at the targets on the ground. Now, SunSister, to their credit, haven't used any ults in these fights so far. They're going to have a sound barrier available. It's what they're going to need to break through this, but once more, they have to survive through the Graviton.
There it goes, and a couple members get caught, but crucially not XQQ with the nano boost running, is trying to get the frags, but it's just not working for them. Zetman is trading it right on. XQQ wasn't even the one doing the damage. They're just relying on the Reinhardt. Even as he goes down here, they just kind of swing back with very little there. Unfortunately, not enough follow-up in that Graviton for DeToNator, and they crumble before SunSister.
But once more, it's another case of, okay, look, we've used quite a lot of ults so far. Let's actually hold onto our own ults. Let SunSister throw absolutely everything at us, and then come back with our own ults.
But charging it alone isn't really the way to make that happen. This is Samurai D going down. That just means trickles. And Dodlov committed a sound barrier as well, getting no one in it. Deadeye out of Anakin gets one. That is technically a trade back, but SunSister is still well set up here. And Anakin can't really stick up here for too long because, yeah, Mollis is going to go answer it. And now SunSister are just kind of, DeToNator just kind of split up.
Oh, and this is just handing ultimates over to SunSister.
Ah, that is fantastic. And yeah, like you said, handing ultimates over. They've managed to get much more charge than they did last time when they used that Graviton Pulse Bomb combo. And DeToNator, they just ran themselves dry throughout that entire extended engage.
That's the second part of the plan, but they just did not execute. SunSister, though, now have got enough time to move up to the store and hold it from here. But DeToNator, like you said, they used so many ults in what was a losing fight that now they've got nothing left in the tank. Yes, SunSister are only at 40%, so DeToNator do have time to come in and build up ults. In fact, Yoshiharu does have his Graviton Surge for this fight, so they could simply win the fight off of that alone, especially if DeLav can get to his Pulse Bomb first.
SunSister are backed up. Oh, that is not a good Earth Shatter. Catching no one. Good block of the shield there. Oh, quick flashbang. And the headshot out on Dodolov as they take out DeLaV as well. Zetman, the only one to go down for SunSister, means that SunSister should be able to hold this one out. DeToNator, I think, are going to be able to get some respawns in and actually keep the fight going, though.
But look at the team comp that SunSister are running. Elu has to be absolutely on point with a sound barrier, because otherwise his entire team is going to get stuck in a Graviton and then have a Pulse Bomb stuck on top of them.
Nothing out of the nothing out of the Deadeye for Anakin. Sound barrier out for Elu keeps them alive for now, but you're right, there's nothing there for when that Graviton goes down, and DeToNator are keeping themselves topped up. They got the option to keep the fight going as XQQ gets fragged out. There's the Graviton. They're throwing the bomb into it as they get one with it and a second to carry it on. More frags coming out now for DeToNator, and they look set to clean up SunSister, cap this point back, and at 89%, I reckon they'll be able to get a hold.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one of the characters from SunSister can sprint to the point, but I mean, look, they're going to be stopped at the door right here. There's no Graviton to just literally hold them right there, but there's, again, no ults for DeToNator, but how are they even going to get to the point?
Zetman exposes himself as he charges in a mad dash to the point. They have got some feet on to try and get the overtime, but DeToNator have this one on lockdown. SunSister, no opportunity to really muster anything like a real force on this point as they get completely beaten back once again. And actually, it's DeToNator, despite losing the first map, who are going to take out Lijiang.
Wow, I mean, just blowing our predictions out of the water right there. I mean, yes, SunSister did put up a good fight, but to be honest, DeToNator, both teams struggled a little bit with this, where they were throwing out ults into losing fights, but DeToNator were actually getting the most efficient use out of this. Examples being like, I mean, also like this, where SunSister got a lot of value out of the attack visor. Oh, that was close there. But, for example, Yoshiharu and Delav just throwing in 2 ultimates to get a complete team wipe. Just the efficient use of their ultimates in that way is what allows them to just win fights, take points back, and then also recognizing when they've lost the fights, and it's time to hand over the point. Now, coming back onto the point and not realizing, like, look, you've got plenty of time. They've got to get all the way to 100% to actually win the game. It seems like they weren't on that page, right? It seems like they were just trying to take the point back immediately when realizing, look, you're slowly going to get a bigger and bigger ultimate advantage. Just wait until you have that. Go ahead and use it, especially that game-winning combo that we've seen so many times. Graviton, Pulse Bomb, it's worked out quite often for them.
Yeah, and it's working. Why switch it up? So yeah, like you said, this is kind of flown in the face of our expectations. Not that we had a lot of expectations, mind you. That sounded wrong. I don't mean to say we expected nothing from these teams. I mean, we sort of had a bit of a guess that SunSister were maybe a little bit more favored coming into this, but there wasn't too much evidence of that. It was like we said at the top of this matchup, quite hard to call it either way. And as much as this has gone against our notion that SunSister might have been a little bit more favored, I still felt like this was even enough, that this is still certainly anyone's series, because we're still yet to get onto any other kinds of map. And I mean, control point tends to just be the most even of any given map in a set normally anyway, and isn't always a sign of a team outright winning the series, as well as evidenced by HKA dropping to AHQ in the reverse sweep last week. So there's plenty of opportunities still for SunSister to actually follow through on what we anticipated. But now there is evidence that DeToNator may actually be the better of the two teams as well. It's still hard to call, and now we're going to be coming onto DeToNator's map pick. Do we have any predictions at all for what this might be?
So, I mean, we're coming into hybrid. They've seen what SunSister can do most recently on Numbani, so if they're going to look for just an efficient map that SunSister have proven to not be fantastic at, then Numbani is definitely an option, but DeToNator haven't had fantastic results, if any, on Numbani. I don't think they've won a match on it. Well, they haven't won any matches, I suppose. But
they actually picked Numbani into blank, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, and that really threw me for a loop there. It shows.
Well, I suppose they just didn't know. They didn't know that, like, Numbani is like, that is blank's map. Yeah, they learned very quickly. But actually, I suppose it shows that they like Numbani, if nothing else, because a lot of other teams have picked things like King's Row. I think we've even seen one Hollywood in there, and the odd Eichenwald, but we only ever see Numbani when it's blank. So maybe actually DeToNator are the other team that likes Numbani. I'm trying to rack my brains and think of what else they have picked when they have had that pick of the escort map, of the hybrid map, sorry.
There's also the option of Hollywood, right?
Yeah.
Probably,
where has Hollywood been this whole time?
It's probably been like tied, like the second most picked map so far for the hybrid round. Eichenwald and Numbani sitting probably below them.
I think DeToNator has actually picked Hollywood.
Yeah, so I think
that, yeah. So that's maybe an option for them as well. And
it also unlocks Anakin on the Farah as well.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a great map for that.
I was just thinking that. And it's also hard to say if SunSister are particularly favored on anything as well. That's the funny thing when both of these teams have lost all of their matches so far. None of these teams have had good performances on hybrids, really. Otherwise, they'd be picking up wins. They'd be picking up series wins. They'd certainly be picking up better results than 0-3 kind of setup. So it means that there's very little to go on in terms of A, what these teams might pick, and B, what they might avoid against the other team. I mean, it's anyone's guess. And that also kind of means it's anyone's guess for them. Surely they would have scrimmed each other, though, locally, given that they are both Japanese teams and have quite possibly played in local tournaments in Japan, but that's all they've got to go off. That's not necessarily recent and relevant information within the scope of this tournament.
Another thing to factor in as well, like what's the strength of the opposing team when you're picking in, right? Like sure, you want to unlock Anakin on Farah. Hollywood sounds like a great map for that. But then you think about like, okay, XQQ, probably the strongest player.
What about XQQ? It kind of unlocks him too.
Yeah, I mean, XQQ, he's already proven he can play Farah. In fact, almost to a better level than Anakin as well, not even needing a Mercy up in the sky with him. But also, likes that McCree, likes that Soldier, has got great results on all three of those heroes. On Hollywood, if you're on the defense, you can pick either Soldier or McCree, have him up on the balcony, and that shuts down a lot of flankers, a lot of divers, and also demands a lot of respect on both of those heroes. And then also, Farah is an option for him on attack. So if you're DeToNator and you're thinking, look, let's try and unlock Anakin with Farah on Hollywood, great map for Farah, it's also unlocking XQQ almost more.
Yeah. And again, like it makes it really, really hard. It's actually going to be Numbani, so that was really the only thing I felt we had any evidence of, purely because they had picked it against Blank. It was a mistake to pick it against Blank, but they still picked it, and they had a reason for it, and it's obviously the same reason that they're picking it now. So I'm actually quite excited to see what they pull out here. I'm trying to remember what they actually ran on Numbani against Blank.
It was
I think it was a Tourbillon.
Very long time ago. Yeah, there was a Tourbillon. The turret
years ago.
Turret basically a non-factor against Blank, but I mean, yes, that's Blank. So perhaps they're going to be looking to run a Tourbillon on defense. Again, Numbani is another map where you can run Farah and can unlock that hero a little bit. Even Blank ran the pharmacy combo on defense on the first point. They did actually lose that point to SunSister, but they did hold them for a very long time. SunSister proved they had an answer to it in XQQ using that Widowmaker.
Yeah,
so if they see that, that's what's going to come out.
And that's the thing, right? Like you said, they actually did have an answer. It did take them a while, but I mean, they still answered it. And they could certainly answer Anakin on Farah as well. So I wonder if Farah is even a factor in here. I mean, maybe either of these teams might go for it because they feel that they're strong in it, but they could also just avoid it altogether and go, I know, we know that the other team can counter this out if they so choose, so we'll only get a little bit of mileage out of it. Let's just not bother with it at all. Maybe go for something that's going to be a little bit more reliable, something that we don't know that they can counter for sure. So there's still just so many questions about this. I mean, about this matchup as a whole, and I know I said it at the top of the match, but it's still going to ring true at every single point. I mean, you know, even when we get to the top of the third map, we're still going to go, it's hard to say what's going to happen and what this is going to look like, because both of these teams are actually quite untested in terms of executing and winning.
I think the answer about who's going to win these fights is all going to come down to which DPS is going to be demanding the most respect and whether those teams actually deal with it, right? Almost definitely, it's going to be XQQ, depending on who he runs, actually. If it's Widowmaker or Soldier, he needs to be dealt with. Yoshiharu has proven that he can do that, especially against heroes like Soldier. In fact, he did it on Gardens, I believe, like quite effectively. So we'll see if that happens. I mean, Yoshiharu has proven he can do it. So if they can actually answer what XQQ brings out, then I think DeToNator can actually win on this map again.
Yeah, well, having won already, now the only team actually of these two to pick up even a single map win. DeToNator, they may feel themselves a little favored coming into Numbani, and it is their pick as well. So there is clearly a reason for that. I'm tentatively excited.
Tentatively? I'm already excited.
I'm tentatively excited because, dare I say it, this could end up being quite one-sided in favor of DeToNator, just for those two reasons that I have given, but it's so hard to say, as it has been right from the word go. It's so hard to say that I don't want to say, yeah, I'm really excited for a tight, close match. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think both teams.
That's my final thought on the matter. It's going to be interesting.
Fantastic analysis there, Pixie. But let's have a look at this. Defense is going to be a DeToNator first, and wow, that is an anti-dive composition there. They're not quite running the McCree, but Delav on that Roadhog should be enough to shut down any cheeky Winstons, any cheeky Genjis.
Farah's indeed in the air as well. XQQ and Elu Gonna run that one. See which angle they choose to go. I think they're gonna go around the side.
Yeah, XQQ definitely the target to watch once more. An option for a lot of teams to deal with fire is instead of shooting them out of the sky, you simply storm the team on the ground. Now, DeToNator don't quite have the composition to do that. The only ones that are mobile enough are the tanks to do that. So instead, they're going to be looking for Yoshiharu and Samurai D to use their aerial mobility to not necessarily shut down XQQ, but start damaging him down, putting shields down, blocking a lot of his damage with Defense Matrix. It's going to be a lot on their job. And DeLaV needs to be looking for those opportunities to hook him out of the sky.
So far, neither team really gaining much ground just yet, but certainly SunSister now set up a little bit in position to start getting on top of this one, and they're going to commit to the point, going to try and force DeToNator onto it. Now XQQ goes aggressive, trying to stop the opposite balcony there. Not really getting the damage down just yet, and no frags either way means no one really has the upper hand.
Look at Yoshiharu, he's playing so well defensively, just constantly blocking whatever XQQ value he can bring. Also, Anakin on the complete opposite balcony, just constantly demanding respect once more. No one's able to jump on top of him and deal with him. SunSister, though, haven't used any ultimates. They can come back in, try and use that advantage to go for a full team wipe.
Yeah, they do just need to back up off this one, and Elu will have a res coming into this next fight as well, which means they can even afford to just draw some of DeToNator's ultimates out of them and then get that good old-fashioned tempo res and keep the fight going in their favor.
DeToNator, though, do have the Nano Visor combo, and SunSister, they're going to have to use Odinkin to block all of that, because otherwise XQQ, and most specifically Elu, won't be able to get value out of their characters, especially Elu, who cannot die at the start of this fight. There's the Nano Boost that's going on.
Yeah, they're committing it, and they're committing it all very early. It's a lot of ultimates out of SunSister.
No value.
Everything in the kitchen sink as the hook from DeLaV is just going to cancel that one out altogether. They can still go for a tempo raise, but they need to get kills to make it worthwhile. And they haven't even drawn all the ultimates out of DeToNator anyway. If they raised, they wouldn't be bringing any ultimates back into the fight. And they're not going to have an opportunity to do it now.
And that's a good decision there. SunSister backing off, and I think that's a big difference between the teams. If it was DeToNator in that situation, they would have thrown out the Resurrect to just even things up, and then they would have lost a lot of value from a lot of their ultimates. So SunSister smartly backing off, and while they don't have as many resources to use before because the Nano Boost and the Dragon Blade was already used, they can still come back in here without wasting even more ultimates into that. In fact, they've also got a character swap.
You're going to have 3 available here. The Whole Hog, Sound Barrier, and Primal Rage all up and running for DeToNator in just a moment here. So the frags need to come quick and smooth from SunSister as they find 2. Now looking for more. No res for DeToNator as Yoshiharu out of the mech and now gone altogether. DeLaV not finding anything with that one hook, and now he's just kind of forced alone off to the side of his room, getting picked off at the end of that one. And that is a very clean execution there by SunSister. Like I said, the frags had to come in fast and clean, and they did.
Yeah, a pretty happy result for SunSister as well. They get to keep both of their support ultimates as well. Elu holding on to that res. DeToNator didn't use too many ultimates during that, so they're going to be looking towards moving at that payload as early as possible, like emulating what Blank did against SunSister, taking this fight very early on, trying to hold them at the spawn point. SunSister, they're moving really far forward, keeping one person on the payload at a time, making sure that it's slowly moving, but they've still got the positional advantage, and the person on the payload is still able to affect the fight. It's actually Kira sitting on the payload can still throw out an Nano Boost, can still heal.
Oh yeah, good quick kill onto Samurai D. There is a trade back though onto the opposite side Winston, but there should be enough here still for SunSister to keep this fight going, and if they do lose anyone else, Elu can just res. DeToNator losing another member here means SunSister, they should just want to keep this one going. They are still getting payload distance as well, so that is the commitment from them. As they take out Anakin, should keep breaking the DeToNator defense, and the payload should be able to get all the way up to this point.
And with Anakin dead, XQQ and Elu are both free in the skies to just rain down hell upon their opponents. They've got a big numbers advantage, the payloads move the most of the way, and they're ready to win.
XQQ didn't find much with that ultimate, but again, they do still have the rest to keep this one going. They just need to draw out a few more out of DeToNator. They've still got that Nano Visor combo, so it's only a matter of time, but if they pick off Psy Hate, then it doesn't even matter. He's going to throw out the Nano Boost just so they can commit the Tac Visor. They do get the key one, and Elu, that's huge for them. That's really all they needed to get, actually. So, wow, that just alone is going to rebuff SunSister. DeToNator do lose Yoshiharu off the back end of this, which is a little unfortunate, but they actually know they're not going to have enough time to get back into this because they also lost Dodlov, and SunSister have kind of regrouped here. They're going to actually cap this despite DeToNator doing the one thing they really needed to do in that fight, and now DeToNator need to back off lest they just give up a ton of ult charge to SunSister.
Oh, a pulse bomb being thrown out, but that's not too bad for SunSister, right? I mean, that charges up incredibly quickly. This guy, Samurai D, is buying so much much time for his team on the point. They're actually going to get reinforcements.
They kind of are. This is, I guess, still anyone's point, but SunSister are still being the more consistent in terms of just out-fragging their opponents right now. It's only the one here on the point, only the Diva. Yoshihari there he goes. That's the point cap through for SunSister. They did throw out the res there, but it was well worth it. They've still got other ultimates in the pocket, and they should actually get this res back pretty soon.
SunSister, 2.5 minutes to make it all the way to the end of the third checkpoint. They've been winning team fights, being more efficient in a lot of ultimates. They're swapping things up, though, not going for that Mercy anymore. Lucio now, triple tank. This is going to be a completely different team composition. In fact, XQQ is going to be the only damage dealer, and that's on Tracer. Needs to get a lot of value, but Anakin is there to shut him down.
Shut down indeed. Quick smite on top of Elu, and now onto Kira as well. This guy is a healer, hunter killer, and he does finally get taken down, but he's stopped up SunSister for a crucial few seconds. Enough time, at least, for DeToNator to build up some crucial ult charge.
Yeah, and look at how early they took the fight as well. The payloads barely moved a few inches. SunSister spent so much time swapping their heroes up that DeToNator got time to regroup, move in, and force a fight literally on top of the payload and back past the payload. So even if SunSister do win this fight, the payload's barely going to get around the first corner, and DeToNator can regroup and go for another fight. They just need to win a few more here with only 1 minute and 25 seconds to go. SunSister have a few things to work with, and one of those is Nano Boost.
One of those is Nano Boost indeed, and they're going to go ahead and commit it. No kills coming through just yet, as they've sent Zetman deep. They finally get Samurai D and Anakin as well, so good news for them, and they should be able to get some others. Oh, nice catch with the Earth Shatter. All of DeToNator in the retreat as they gunned it for the base to try and set themselves back up in a better position. That's going to give them tons of space for this payload to move around the corner. They need to go and stop anyone from coming out of this base, though. They need to get in position for that quickly. SunSister, they're not quite doing that. They're confident that they can just march the payload in, and they can. No one's here to contest. No one's gone for it. They're throwing in a self-destruct at the last second here, but I don't think anyone from DeToNator can really get out of the base here, even as the Nano Boost gets committed. It's on to Delevi, of all people, who's just kind of blinking around the point. Less than a meter to go. Surely SunSister will have it, as DeToNator are consistently getting picked off.
Any kills they get right here are absolute value for DeToNator, and they've already got 2. That might actually be enough for the bodies that are just being thrown onto the payload to actually hold it here. They've got a massive respawn advantage. They might actually hold it here.
They've still got a Nano Boost that they can commit here, though, SunSister, and all DeToNator would need to do is step off the point for a split second. They're backing up, though, SunSister.
That's correct.
They don't want to keep the fight going. I mean, it's safer, but they've only got a few seconds. They need to commit, they need to go now, and it's far more of an even closing fight than I think either team is particularly comfortable with. Here's the commit, though, with the Nano Boost on the Reinhardt, as they're trying to get as much mileage as they can. The Earth Shatter doesn't find anything, and Samurai D is about to get hits if he can stay alive for a few crucial seconds. Delevi throwing out his pulse bomb, but it goes down, finding nothing with that ultimate. Oh! They're getting them, though. Anakin out of the mech, and they get Zetman as well, as Kira gets picked off. Samurai D doing great work there. The pulse bomb is good in response, but there's not enough members from SunSister to keep it going, and they don't close the cap. They backed off, not realizing how little time was left.
No, backing off, definitely the right decision to make there, because they were just being overwhelmed by the respawn advantage. They needed to wait for their own reinforcements. During that defense, DeToNator took out 2 members of SunSister, so you're never going to win a fight that is 4v5 and then eventually 4v6. So backing off, regrouping, and going for one final team fight was the right answer to get it to the end of the third checkpoint. Still a respectable result, getting it very far along with the payload, but SunSister showed a lot of promise in being conservative, where DeToNator were not. DeToNator, there was a lot of fights where they were just throwing ults, hoping to win them simply where they were already losing. And a lot of that was during Lijiang Tower. SunSister proved that they are okay to back off. They are okay to not throw ults at a fight that is already lost.
I don't disagree with you, but I think SunSister did make a crucial mistake in there. That was when they were pushing the payload to the end. There is such an easy way to win right there in that situation. You've got a team wipe, you've got all the space, you've got the ultimate advantage, you've got all the members there as well. What you do is you sit them on the payload, and then you send a couple of people forward to the base gates to try and stop anyone from getting onto the payload, just to force a contest. It was at 0.54 meters.
Except
had they actually, hear me out, had they actually done that, they could have bought themselves the microsecond they needed to push it all the way to the end, honestly. What they did instead is they sat 2 people on the payload, and then everyone else sat back, and they just let DeToNator kind of come out of the base, have this protracted fight, and SunSister ended up in a situation where they had to back off.
See, it was impossible for them to do it anyway because DeLaV and Yoshiharu both dancing around the point. In fact, DeLaV managed to hold himself
they
on
weren't
the
alive.
payload.
They weren't alive at that point. The whole team had been wiped. They were yet to actually come out of the base, and I don't feel SunSister set themselves up as favorably as they could have.
Well, anyway, we're getting into the second round, so we can just forget everything about the last one. Let's go in with DeToNator on the attack here, running that pharmacy combo.
Yeah.
Elu on the Torbjorn. That's an interesting one. Only one healer.
Two interesting things, I suppose. One being that DeToNator are willing to pull out that pharmacy as well. Not surprising, but interesting that both of these teams favor the same strategies. And yeah, Elu already the turret down, and he didn't really get much ult charge out of it either.
Yeah, and this is the best way to shut down a Torbjorn, take down his turret clearly, in fact twice in a row even, but also start the fight early where you've got the biggest advantage where Elu is not stacking armor up on his team.
DeLaV though, and now Saihari looking to get picked off as well. Dodlov going down, and Anakin is very much on the wrong side of this one. SunSister going to be able to get a couple of frags in and just stay on this point here.
Yep, so DeToNator can regroup, try and go for that fight once more. No ultimates have come into play so far, but Elu had just died, so he's going to have to run all the way back to the point. He didn't have a turret set up, needs to go back, start building it up. That's crucial time that DeToNator can use to get into the point, especially with Anakin in the sky, who's going to shut him down. It's only XQQ. If Anakin just can get into a safe position where he can just pin XQQ down, have his own mobile tanks, Yoshiharu and Samurai D lock him down, that should be the key target to take out of the fight. Never mind, actually, the turret's already set up. There it is.
Already well set up, but it's taken straight back down again, and still not close enough to a molten core for it to be impactful. DeToNator not exactly any ultimates of their own, but they are close. Oh, Dodlov going down right at the top of it. Mollis good mileage out of his ultimate, and they're just out fragging through and through here. SunSister, so efficient.
Yeah, I mean, throwing a few ults just to make sure to clean everything up. That nano boost is going to be enough, but also here's the key moment. Watch for Elu to start throwing those armor packs down, and you're right, DeToNator are changing. Anakin is now over on the Genji. There's no more Mercy to worry about as well. So DeToNator, they're going to have to wait a little while because they're going to need that Nano Blade combo to fully clean up the rest of SunSister. They've also got a Tactical Visor coming up, very likely to use that during the fight. We'll have to see if it's actually going to be any effect because Odinkin is great at blocking it.
Elu not able to set up the turret in time once again, but if they can outfrag, it's not going to matter. XQQ with the ultimate to take out Anakin. And they need to get a lot of mileage out of this to keep the ultimate advantage, but they are going to get that, it seems. Need to just maybe draw a couple of ultimates out of DeToNator as well to make this comfortable. But Anakin, good position, is going to commit the ultimate, but dove straight on top of it. That's exactly what SunSister wanted. Drew a crucial ultimate out of DeToNator. They actually are going to commit another one out of Zetman, but I think it's quite justifiable. They get a lot of mileage out of it. Again, holding on to ultimate advantage here.
Yeah, DeToNator still having some tools left in the bank, but like I said, they've got to start building towards the Nanoblade combo. Only 2/3 of the way there, and with only 1 minute to go, you've got at best 2 more fights, so it's very likely DeToNator are either going to go fully into this fight, try and get the best advantage they can, and Anakin gets his ult during the fight, or they wait. They wait until both heroes have their ultimates ready to combo up and start going for a team wipe.
We're going to have to see how they do it. DeLaV going down right at the top and already setting themselves up well. Mollis, nice pulse bomb, gets a lot of damage there. Widespread of it, even though it didn't get kills per se. They're able to clean up the members that got low and execute on this high ground. Again, so few ultimates. In fact, there was only the one out of Mollis to secure that. That was really great stuff.
So, I mean, DeToNator, they're forced to wait until they've got the Nanoblade combo this time.
30
Luckily for
seconds
them,
left.
They did use Yoshiharu's ultimate during that, and even a pulse bomb of their own. They're going to have to rush up to the point. Remember, they don't have a huge amount of time to set this up, so they need to get in there as quickly as they can. Anakin has to get the most value he's ever had before. With only 20 seconds to go, Saihate needs to build up that final 10% of his ult. They can't wait long enough for that. They need to go in now and get the nano boost on someone else.
And there's plenty of ultimates that SunSister can use. They're going to start it off with a molten core, and everyone's already got the armor running. They're just trying to make it hard for DeToNator to get into a favorable position. Forces out the sound barrier out of them. DeToNator still a couple of ultimates to commit as they go in with the nano boost as well, but Kira had already committed his. Anakin is making it happen though, getting a couple of kills. Now he's finding Elu as well, and the turret to boot. Actually at the 11th hour, DeToNator looked like they've been able to get onto the point. Maybe SunSister jumped the gun on some of those ultimates, and they're not really in a position to swing back on this one. Zetman rightly holding on to his ultimate there. They're just going to have to regroup and try and hold elsewhere.
SunSister not recognizing what the win condition there for DeToNator was. It was clearly Anakin and Saihate had not used their ults for a very long time because they just swapped. So clearly they were waiting for that Dragon Blade combo to go in for the fight. SunSister didn't recognize that, threw in a nano boosted Winston into the tunnel. Of course, Anakin's just going to get out of there, go around and use his ultimate to clean everything up. And the rest of the team were able to just also get the damage done so he could get those one-hit kills with the Dragon Blade. Now, DeToNator won that fight pretty handily so that they are going to get a lot of free distance on the payload here.
They only need to get it all the way to the end. I mean, maybe that's a tall ask, maybe it's not. Another pick onto Zetman is good stuff for them. Gives them a lot of the space they need, and they're looking to do what a lot of teams are doing these days on these difficult maps. Oh, cheeky one from Mollis is trying to stop up the payload progress while the rest of SunSister goes forward to make the space for it. Doesn't quite happen. While the rest of DeToNator. Doesn't quite happen as DeToNator pull back, but SunSister are hot in their heels as they do so, getting the kills as they go, and have found their spot to try and set up a defense.
Yeah, and that was actually really fantastic play by Mollis, recognizing what was going on. DeToNator, like a lot of teams before them, leave only their healers on the payload. Mollis just sneaks up and not only contests the payload, but also takes a kill out right at the start. Now we're getting close to the Nanoblade combo once more, and Anakin has shown that he can clean up a team with that. We'll see if he can do it again.
SunSister, though, they do just need to again out frag here because DeToNator had the ultimate advantage. So if SunSister don't get kills quick, that advantage will overcome them for DeToNator. They get Saihate. That's actually a pretty key one as Anakin only gets one with his. SunSister, they're going to lose a couple more members here, but they're keeping the trades back going. The payload is sort of moving, but DeToNator aren't getting anywhere near as much mileage as they need to. They're still holding on to ultimates and, oh no, I'm a liar. Samurai D has committed his as two of his teammates died. That just means they're not going to get anything out of that, and they lose it for the next fight, which is going to now be a very even fight.
Oh, they are getting some value out of it in the forms of kills, but the payload's been contested the entire time. So now that it's finally going to start moving, but it was halted for the entire time. And that's a kill onto Samurai D there, which means SunSister can go in.
They didn't really get much with the pulse bomb, but yeah, they're going to go ahead and go in anyway. Yoshiharu trying to find an angle off to the side as they committed the nano boost onto Anakin, who just kind of had to run away with it. SunSister, they still got a couple of ultimates, but losing XQQ is kind of bad news for them. Odinkin can still commit an ultimate if he really wants to, and I think they actually should. They want to try and win this right here if they can, and they've still got the ultimate.
15 seconds.
The only one for DeToNator is Yoshiharu. Yeah, 15 seconds left as XQQ going to rejoin this fight now, looking to get the position for it as Anakin opening up with the Dragon Blade now, finding Kira. They haven't lost anyone else though. And Zetman, he is actually going to pop the ultimate this time around to keep himself alive in this. They're trying to close this out on DeToNator, but it's so hard because XQQ is again down, having found nothing, and DeToNator continuing to find the kills because they're continuing to move this payload. It's on a knife's edge, but it is going in favor of DeToNator.
Oh, these fights are so very slightly eventually won by DeToNator. That's surely going to get them to cap towards the second checkpoint. But when you're moving on to the third checkpoint, you have to wipe the team so one-sidedly to actually get it all the way to the end, which SunSister essentially did. It was, like you said before, inches before the end, which means DeToNator, they need to get the complete team wipe, and they used so many resources during that fight. It was so extended only very slightly won that once more, they've got to wait for Anakin and his Dragon Blade to actually get a full team wipe.
DeToNator do have the ultimate advantage again though, and a bit of a frag onto Anakin though, that's good. They're going to commit for it anyway, and they get 2 kills to open it out. That's good stuff for them. I don't know if they can quite get the full cap right off the back of this, but certainly they're going to make it hard for SunSister to muster any kind of coordinated defense here. They're going to have to absolutely haul it to get onto this point and contest it, much like DeToNator did to them. And let's see if they can do it at the last minute because they've given DeToNator a lot of ground. Here they come out of the base now. Zetman looking to get set up. No ultimate in the pocket for him, not for a long time. Here it does have the nano boost, and it's really hard depending who he'll commit it on. Mollis needs to get a lot out of this. He gets Anakin. That's a good start. Looking to close out Samurai D as well. Sticky's the bomb. Nothing for it, but Zetman closed off Samurai D. DeToNator now with the sound barrier out aren't getting anything with it. It's not saving the team members. They're forced to back off, and I don't know if they have time to reassault this.
Oh, they do have enough time, but only if they sprint towards the point. De La Vie has to get there as Tracer has to touch the payload.
That's huge! That is a massive Earth Shatter. Stops up anyone from getting remotely close. They aren't going to get the payload that last little bit of distance. No one to touch it to grab the overtime, and SunSister do even up the series in what could only be described as a very tight Numbani.
The payload was, again, it was just inches before where they had to get it.
Payload.
Exactly. I mean, well, to be fair, DeToNator were constantly on the payload, doing that as best they can.
I feel like DeToNator were more favored to win that closing fight, though. SunSister were more favored to win that closing fight against DeToNator when they were on the defense than when DeToNator were on the defense against SunSister. I feel like it was SunSister's mistake on the offense, but at any rate, yeah, it was actually possible for DeToNator to close it out there, but unfortunately, unlike the rest of the map where they'd actually done quite well on just getting the straight up kills, they weren't able to do it on that last one, and it is what costed them.
It's the difference between the second checkpoint and the third checkpoint, where you've got the respawns right there. DeToNator were winning these fights, but only slightly. They were just eventually getting the numbers advantage during a lot of these fights and committing a lot of ultimates to do so. So while it does eventually get them the checkpoint, which I'm going to remind you was during overtime for the second checkpoint, they didn't have a lot of time on the third checkpoint, and they didn't have enough ults left in the bank to get a just completely one-sided fight won for them, where at the end, that's what you need to do with the respawn advantage. And unfortunately, they're not able to take it out, just both because they're winning fights only slightly and also because they had no ults left.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, let's look at that, I guess, from the perspective of the other question we've had over this one, and that is which of these two teams does actually have the upper hand. So as much as DeToNator had taken out that first map, it was close. This one also close, but going the way of SunSister. And I feel like it's just speaking to exactly what we said at the top. It's hard to say which of these teams is better than the other based off the other evidence we had at our disposal. And I think it's now also fair to say it's hard to say which team is better because they're just coming across as really even, right? All other anecdotal evidence of their relative performances against other teams aside, these are actually two quite evenly matched teams right now.
And I'm going to bring it back to what I was talking about. The difference between the two teams was it's when they're losing team fights. SunSister will back off, play conservatively, come to fight back another day. DeToNator will continue to throw ults, continue to throw bodies at the payload, the point, whatever it is. They'll try to fight tooth and nail to eventually fight it. That can work on control, where eventually you'll start winning a team fight because you've got equal respawns to your opponent. But on payload, that might work maybe on the second checkpoint, but on the third checkpoint where the respawns are literally right there, it's not going to work out for you eventually.
Not so much.
It didn't work out for SunSister at the end either, but it was definitely the best option presented to them as well. So DeToNator, I think if they can start fixing this up and recognizing the fights where they've already started to lose and it's not very likely that they're going to be able to pull back and stop throwing resources at fights like that, then they can still overcome SunSister because it's worked on control, surely can work on other maps.
Surely, yeah, and I suppose to kind of speak to that next map now is of course going to be Assault, and it's going to be back to SunSister's pick. So I'm going to come out right and say it. I think we can expect a Temple of Anubis here, purely because they picked it out against Blank earlier. Obviously, they've got a reason for that, much like DeToNator had a reason for pulling out Numbani. And funny thing, hey, actually, so far this series, the teams have lost on the map they've picked. I mean, there's only been 2 games, so that's not exactly a massive trend, but kind of interesting, especially with Numbani, which is a little bit more of an off-the-beaten track pick. The fact that DeToNator pulled it out and then lost on it, and in fact, that's the second time they've pulled it out and lost on it. It's kind of interesting.
It is interesting, but also we've got to remember, it's a very close match. I mean, the payloads distances were both within inches of each other and like literally both just short of the third checkpoint.
Actually, I'll tell you what, I'm actually going to disagree with you there, and not just for the sake of argument. It was close in end result in that the payloads got relatively close to one another in where it finished off. But SunSister felt cleaner throughout the entire thing. Their offense felt a bit cleaner. They were much better at capping that first point. From that point on, they executed very, very well. And I feel like they made a bit of a mistake at the end, and DeToNator got just enough mileage out of their stuff to end up in that situation. Whereas when it was the other way around, I feel like DeToNator had a much harder time on the offense, but still got it very close. So I think despite this similar end result, I do feel like SunSister played it just a little bit better. That doesn't mean to say that DeToNator played it bad, but that little bit makes all the difference. And we saw the exact opposite on Lijiang Tower, where it was the little bit but in favor of DeToNator. So it still says, I think, that these teams are evenly matched, but from here on out we get Assault, and then we will definitely get Escort after that as well, and then Hybrid once again if we go to a 5th game. So I feel like based off Numbani, if SunSister are the team that are just slightly better at that style, I feel like they are actually a little bit more favored now for the rest of the series.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at Assault, right? First point, may actually go in favor of DeToNator. They might actually cap first point. No matter what map it is, they're probably going to cap it faster simply because of their playstyle. They'll throw ults at fights that may be lost, but might be able to struggle back into it, especially with respawns running all the way back from these very long run backs on assault on the first point. But when we come to second point, they need to get a clean team fight.
Yeah.
They cannot do that if they are struggling to keep an ultimate advantage up because they're throwing ults away at lost fights.
Yeah, and it's a much taller ask than capping that first point, but we'll see how that goes after a quick break, and we will come back with the third map of this best of 5 series between DeToNator.GOLD and SunSister. Don't go anywhere. All right, well, thank you for sticking with us through that brief break, and we are back once again, ready to jump on in a few moments to Game 3 between two Japanese teams, SunSister and DeToNator.GOLD. Currently, both teams tied 1-1. DeToNator.GOLD picking up first map Lijiang Tower, and now SunSister picking up Numbani.
And let's not forget, during the Overwatch Pacific Championship, this is the first time either team has taken a map.
Woo!
They've done it. They've finally done it. We finally got a win.
Both teams have done it. Ah, the power of friendship has finally done something.
Finally made it somewhere. And to be real though, like we said earlier today, this is going to be the first time a team is going to win. One of these teams is going to win one of these series, while the other one is going to be the only team in the entire championship to have not won a single series. But at least everyone's taken a map.
On a map, yeah. I wonder what it's like having friends.
Where does this come from?
Power of friendship. I've just never experienced that power.
We'll go talk to SunSister, who are currently channeling it with the most recent win on Numbani.
I'll call them up like, hey, how do you make friends?
I'm sure
I'd be good at Overwatch.
I'm sure they'll tell you, right? But hey, look at that.
Temple of Anubis. We actually thought that this might be the option for them purely because they've, well, picked it out a couple of other times already. We're willing to pick it out against Blank just before this. So much like we said, there must have been a reason that DeToNator picked Numbani against Blank, even though they lost it. They picked it out again. Same thing here. SunSister, they have a reason for picking out Temple of Anubis. They're going to pick it again. And I'm curious still to see what that reason is. They did actually have a decent-ish showing against Blank on Temple.
Yeah, so on offense, at the very least, it channels XQQ and his Widowmaker. We saw that Blank actually reacted to the play. It seemed to be pretty standard coming up from SunSister in the way they used XQQ, and so Blank were able to read it and just react appropriately. However, they might actually be able to just use that standard play against what DeToNator.GOLD are going to bring out on the defense, and it might actually work this time. It does channel XQQ on the first point, and even a little bit on the second point. There's still some great perches for XQQ to sit as Widowmaker.
Well, and now two things there as well. First of all, I feel like part of why they lost that was just that Blank's execution on their offense was a little bit cleaner. It wasn't that I feel SunSister made any major mistakes, except for maybe a couple on the second point assault. The other thing is on that first point assault, they've now seen how Blank executed it because they pulled out a similar thing with the Widowmaker and then had a very different pressure-oriented style of capping the point. And that's actually something that SunSister can maybe try and adopt here and look for an even cleaner execute on that first point, set themselves up better for a second point snowball or what have you. So I think on paper, I'm going to go ahead and say they might be a little favored coming onto this one. It is also their pick. But again, I'm still curious to see how this comes out. First of all, are they going to pick the Widowmaker again, or do they have something altogether different? Or, and the other part of that is I'm curious to see how DeToNator handle this map.
It's also more about SunSister's defense as well. Sombra was what they picked up against Blank on not the second point, but the first point. In fact, I think they had Sombra on the second point anyway, but also the fact that they ran it on the first point as also their only DPS, actually one of the two, because Mollis was taken out of the fight so early on Genji. But Sombra is an interesting pick on first because the health packs aren't exactly required. They're in awkward spots for the defending team to actually abuse them to get that EMP charged up very, very quickly. So a lot of the strengths that Sombra can bring on the second point just aren't there for the first point.
Yeah, I don't know if I liked the Sombra pick on that first point defense, but it does show that they are willing to pull it out on defense, and that will be important for second point defense. The question is, are they actually then capable of using it on second point defense? Because honestly, Blank capped the second point so quickly we didn't even get to see how SunSister pulled out Sombra on the second point. We didn't get to see whether they could actually execute with it properly. And that all happened for different reasons that were I mean, they were SunSister's fault, but not in how they defended the second point. It was more in how they switched from a first point defense to a second point defense. They just completely dropped the ball and how they moved and reacted to that.
They didn't stand on the point, is the TLDR.
Basically, yeah. Well, and they sort of left it wide open. But if they do get set up, then it'll be interesting to see what they're able to do.
So I like what DeToNator are bringing out on the defense here. They've got Anakin on Genji, who is something that can deal with XQQ, and as Widowmaker, I'm almost certain that XQQ will bring that hero out once more. But if you can channel his inner blank, and there you go. So you're just using the Sonic Arrow. If they can channel the inner blank and have either Kira or Kira is really their only option to protect XQQ as well. Once Anakin jumps on top of him, then they can actually win this fight here. That's what Blank did. Yeah. Surely SunSister can do it too.
That was nice. I like that. First they sent Zetman up to make sure it was clear and also to kind of scope it out. Then they get XQQ up, and this is going to force DeToNator to reposition. Very deep charge in actually out of Samurai D, and he is going to pay for it. That's why you don't try and displace that XQQ Widowmaker up on that high ground.
Dangerous game.
Yeah, dangerous game indeed. There is actually going to be a pick out onto Kira. XQQ hasn't found anything just yet, but the rest of the team is still trying to keep the offensive going as they pick out Dotilov. Might be able to keep it alive as they lose Zetman though. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. And XQQ is going to have to give up that high ground as well, taking a bit too much damage there. So first, I guess semi-offense repelled, but SunSister still have plenty of time and plenty of room to maneuver.
Kira must hate this dive meta. He's dying at the start of every single fight, is often put onto heroes like Ana or Zenyatta right now, and he just dies at the start of every fight.
Not as bad as Kiyomi, who really does die.
Yeah, no, Kiyomi's the real one.
Yeah. Anakin able to keep alive there. Again, he dies at the start here, poor Kira. But XQQ this time actually finding the pick. It's onto Delave. Losing a few too many members still though, and they're not finding more picks, and XQQ again going to go down. Mollis needs to just kind of back up to his team. And SunSister are continuing to getting rebuffed. They can't just do this forever.
XQQ, he's demanding respect quite a lot, but DeToNator are just on top of it every single time. Samurai Z, Yoshiharu, even Anakin at some points, they're constantly diving on top of XQQ, allowing him to get absolutely nothing. I think he's got one headshot this entire game, and that was against De La Vie. One of the heroes is quickest at getting back to the point.
Let's see how they're able to execute on this again. They've got the Widowmaker ult running, and honestly, SunSister aren't leveraging the positional advantage, but they do finally break through by getting Samurai D down. It's a good self-destruct for zoning, but it doesn't get any kills. Looks like SunSister are now going to fully assault the point, but Anakin going over this one with the Dragon Blade, just left, right, and center. He only gets the 2 kills for it, but that is plenty enough to stop up this offense. They're going to commit a sound barrier to this. I don't know if that was at all necessary, but it does keep it alive long enough for them to really shut the lid on this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. And during that XQQ, he was forced onto the ground, and when you're on the ground, you have to keep your eyes out for the Tracer. He had his target sighted on Anakin to shut down the Dragon Blade. Would have been fantastic if he did, but he was killed by De La Vie way before that could ever happen. Because of that, he's swapping over onto the Soldier.
Yeah.
Doesn't have a lot of protective tanks though, so we'll see how that works out for him.
I feel like their option here, their game plan needs to be to try and find a good pick with Mollis with that pulse bomb, but De La Vie is going to be looking for one of his own as well, and then get a lot of zoning out of the D.Va self-destruct so that XQQ can get good positioning. They've actually got Yoshiharu out of the mech. Elu is forced out with the sound barrier. They've actually forced out both the healer ultimates so that SunSister can get on the point, but they've picked off Anakin, so they might be able to do this here. Looking to aggress onto Saihade as well. Mollis, good work for him there. Now onto Dotilov. XQQ set up on this one means they will get the second healer out, and they should be able to close this one out. Delave and Anakin have just respawned, and they're a bit too far away from this point. That will be a cap for SunSister. Not much snowball potential in terms of ultimates, but they're still going to have plenty of time to get the second point.
Well, that's the thing though, they don't have the snowball potential, especially because DeToNator actually have a fair amount of ults themselves. If Anakin can get to that Dragon Blade, they have all the tools to just clean up a fight that SunSister brings out. XQQ, he's still sticking to that Soldier, not going to go for the Widowmaker here. I mean, I do like Widowmaker, but Soldier definitely brings a lot too. They had to swap Kira onto Ana, so that's a reset on ultimate charge, which means they are waiting a very long time for Nano Boost. So XQQ, is he going to use Tactical Visor? Definitely not going to wait for the Nano Boost, so we'll see if it comes out.
Yeah, pressuring Samurai D out and Yoshiharu as well. They're not securing the kills though, as De La Vie whiffs the pulse bomb. They need to top off some members here because DeToNator got a couple of members low and look to kind of commit to the route there. They don't close out the kills themselves though, so SunSister top themselves off, and they do get a little bit of a window here if they can find a kill quickly.
Yeah, still yet to have an ultimate committed to this, short of pulse bombs anyway. If Mollis can find a big one.
Oh dear, Odinkin out of the mech anyway as he commits the ultimate actually. Didn't find anything for it. Namakin gonna open up. Here come the trade backs, but no one really had advantage there. No one really had a reason to take a fight. They just both kind of took a fight. And actually it's DeToNator who leave themselves wide open as SunSister get the frags. DeToNator overextend, XQQ gunning it for the point and gunning it with his gun as he finds an Namakin under that one. Now very well set up onto the point here. Good self-destruct. Oh no, XQQ! He didn't quite stay in cover for long enough, but that's the only one who's kind of gone down there. DeToNator are coming in with some respawns as Samurai D ults to keep himself alive on the point. They need to close out a lot of kills here, SunSister, and they don't really have any ultimates to do it with. They're just going to try and get frags, but they're going to back off the point instead.
Nano boost.
Committed a nano boost. Not sure why.
This is kind of something that DeToNator do quite a lot. It's throwing ultimates at a fight that really you've already lost right now. Now, it could have been because Kira was going to swap, but that's not the case. So it's just simply a resource that you're not going to have for the next fight. You've only got 2.5 minutes to go. Oh, both teams have actually swapped over to the Sombra.
I just noticed that they've both got a gun for the health packs. Whoever hacks them first has the upper hand.
But Anakin's right there. He's already defending the spot. He's going to get all the health packs first. XQQ, I mean, he's got this one on the side,
and I think he actually got the one under the bridge as well. That's big. And now Anakin is in a bad spot here. XQQ needs to keep himself alive, but this is a really interesting one. If they pull this one off, this could be big.
They do actually have quite a lot of health packs to work with. I think both teams are going to be looking to get that EMP as quickly as possible.
XQQ, no! It doesn't matter if you're invisible. The Tesla cannon still knows where you are, and that's going to give DeToNator an opportunity to go on the aggressive. Modus is still on this point, though, and they're just scattered. It's like they're not all following the same calls or something here. I mean, they lost a member, but half the team backed off while the other half committed to the rest of the fight, and now they're just getting those trickle deaths, and those, they will be the end here.
And DeToNator just weren't letting SunSister retreat. They were just being incredibly aggressive. And also, they didn't use any ultimates during that fight at all. Anakin now has that EMP. They can just throw that away and maybe even win a fight simply using that. It's one of the fastest charging ultimates in the game. And it does shut down a lot of what SunSister need to win this fight. They don't have a lot of team clearing ults either. Mollis,
they don't have their own EMP yet either.
Yeah, Mollis is shut down a lot by the Sombra on defense, right? If you get hacked, there's no more blinking. Tracer is a sitting duck like that, relies a lot on health packs, can't use those because they're constantly hacked. Here's the EMP.
Here we go, and it's a big one. That's going to stop any opportunity for a counterattack as the team just gets mowed down. Odin out of the mech now as he gets picked off at the end. Just one ultimate, all the kills there, so effortless, and DeToNator, ton of ultimate advantage still as SunSister have not enough time really to go for 2 fights.
And short of using absolutely nothing at all, DeToNator used the most efficient ultimate possible, the EMP. They did exactly what I said they were going to do, win a fight with only that ultimate, and now it can actually charge up fast enough for them to have it for the second fight, and they still have 5 ultimates anyway to defend one final push by SunSister. They only have 30 seconds to go.
On to commit everything, and who do they even put the nano boost on here? I mean, maybe onto Zetman, but that's unideal. They've got to get into this one very, very quickly. Mollis already low, forced to recall to stay alive. No ultimates from either side just yet. Mollis will have that pulse bomb soon. XQQ going into position, trying to throw out that EMP as that's the sound barrier out of Elu. No such out of Dodlov just yet. There's the EMP, and the sound barrier saves Sayhade as SunSister get wiped under Delavi's pulse bomb. They have to keep the fight going though because they're in overtime, but Mollis, unless he gets a hero bomb, isn't going to get anything with this one. He kills Samurai D, but that's not enough as Odin goes down. That's going to start the overtime ticking away, and that sets DeToNator up quite handily in this. SunSister only getting 28% of that point.
And XQQ as well, during that final fight, there was one decision he had to make, and that was when to use the EMP. You could see him actually holding onto it for a very long time. The best time for him to use it was straight after sound barrier, but Ilu was being incredibly conservative, knowing that it would be shut down by EMP, so he was holding onto it, and in fact actually hiding out of line of sight, almost like the way a Mercy plays, and making sure he wasn't hit by the EMP, so that as soon as it came out, sound barrier was there to keep his team alive during the duration of the hack, so that they weren't taken advantage of.
Exactly, that entire fight was almost like ultimate chicken, right? It was going to come down to who committed the ultimates first, and it was SunSister. And that was kind of because they were the ones who were to attack. They kind of had to use the ultimates first, because otherwise you pile onto the point, the defenders can throw out their ultimates, and if any of your members die, you're done for. They have the defender's advantage as it is, so you can't afford to be the second to throw out your ultimates. I mean, really, SunSister, excuse me, sorry, they just sort of ended up in a bit of an impossible situation there, and maybe we can say it's their fault that they ended up in that situation in the first place. I can't blame them for failing to get out of it, but I think it is a little fair to say that they shouldn't have been in that spot to begin with. And this is SunSister, who just whiffed a defense against Blank on Temple of Anubis, so they've really got their work cut out for them on this defense here.
I've got to give credit to DeToNator though. They were cycling their ultimates so much better, recognizing win conditions of the fights. I mean, simply, if you can win a team fight with just the EMP, you set yourself up for the rest of the game. And like we saw, they had 5 ultimates to work with for a very long time, simply because they won that one stabilizing fight with only the Sombra EMP.
Yeah, well, we're now going to go ahead and get into DeToNator.GOLD on the offense, SunSister on the defense, and yeah, it's happening again. XQQ, he feels that Sombra 0.1 defense is the way to go. DeToNator not pulling out a Widowmaker this time, though.
Big difference here. DeToNator running a lot of flankers, relies on health packs, and also gets shut down a lot by being hacked by XQQ. So Sombra may actually work out just simply against the team composition. DeToNator are storming the top of this building, though.
Yeah, really aggressive on this and beating SunSister well back. Sayhade is going to go down here, though, to XQQ with the good positioning, and SunSister didn't really lose enough health for that to really matter. They do lose one, but DeToNator are too low to keep this one going as the kills start to come through for SunSister.
And this is actually really key, right? Because SunSister are definitely going to get their ultimate first, because EMP, like I said, charges as one of the fastest ultimates in the game. And look at that. It's ready. And now they can actually win a fight, especially look at the team composition once more. Yeah, it's great if you can hack one of them. He's very likely to hack both Tracer and Genji. And even the tanks as well rely a lot on their abilities.
Oh, Zetman, hello. That's a little unfortunate to kick it off. XQQ is going to need to get a lot of mileage with that EMP as he commits to it. Nearly goes down for it, but they pick off DeLaV. He will finally go down. SunSister need to get some kills very quickly here. Otherwise, they're going to have a real hard time in this. They don't exactly have other ultimates to fall back on. Odin's about to go out of the mech, and he was the only one who was close. And Zetman, who has his, died first. So he's actually trying to get back into this fight. Because they just kind of left the door open a little bit there by getting Zetman picked at the start. DeToNator, they jump right on the opportunity, pounce like a predator on its prey, and cap this point.
Now, most important thing to note as well is this is the second fight that it took them to win the first point, which means that DeToNator are now all coming up to their ultimates. They didn't use any of them to get into the fight. Like you said, only winning the fight because they just picked off Zetman. Now look at that. It's similar to before. 5 ultimates.
Can you say snowball?
And DeLaV is very close to his own pulse bomb. There's
going to be
no
6.
EMP. No EMP on the defense right now. They barely have anything. Mollis has to go with the biggest Dragon Blade he's ever done in his life.
It's going to have to be huge, and Kira swapped off just now, so he's not even got a defensive ultimate out of him. As Mollis going down already, and he doesn't really get enough for it. They did commit a couple onto Anakin, who only got 2 kills with it, but they're getting more now. Yoshiharu's to commit his. They're getting them. They're getting all the kills through. They only have to get it up above 28%. That is not a small order. They should be able to do it here as they get Zetman off the back end of this one. There's no one really contesting the point except for Mollis, who's just doing it through sheer. Yeah, they're getting the kills still. They could even full cap this one. Not that they need to, as XQQ now looking to go down again. They're kind of trickling in, so they're keeping it alive for quite a long while, but it's only a matter of time unless something crazy happens for SunSister here.
I mean, Kira's arrived to the point as May can buy a lot of time.
That could be the craziness, because Elu bought a lot of time as well with the sound barrier, but they're still getting the kills through. No one on DeToNator has gone down now, except for finally DeLaV here, and Anakin getting a second Dragon Blade should be able to close out all the kills they need for this win here, as they finally cap it out. That was super clean.
That is how you cap the second point on any assault map.
SunSister, take notes.
Get a humongous ultimate advantage and just roll them onto the second point. They had no defensive ultimates because the second fight was just so absolutely one-sided in the end. I mean, there was 1 or 2 trade backs coming out from SunSister on the defense, but eventually just snowballed enough for DeToNator to move in. And also, there was quite a lot of hit points for them to go through, and it being the second fight meant that they had so many ultimates left.
That was just clean out of DeToNator. I'm going to be completely honest, and I still disagree with XQQ pulling out this Sombra on the first point. It's just, whatever they're trying to do with it, it's clearly not working out, I'm sorry to say. They need to kind of reassess that one, I feel. But yeah, and that's actually the second time as well, because of how the shift between the first point defense and second point defense went. We haven't even seen if it can work for them on that second point defense. We haven't seen if they're a team that can execute on it. I'm still going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they can. that it will work. Because I mean, if you're confident to pick the Sombra, then I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't work out for you. And he did get some mileage out of it on the first point defense, certainly more than he did against Blank, but still not enough. So, SunSister, I think they've got to go back to the drawing board a little bit with that Temple of Anubis, especially given that it is the map that they are picking. And the trend of losing the map you pick has continued. If it continues all the way to the end, then that does account to a DeToNator win. But like I said before, we're now going to come on to Escort and then back onto Hybrid after that, if we go that far. And after Numbani, I do actually feel like both of those ever so slightly favor SunSister.
If you're DeToNator picking the next map, maybe you should be thinking like, hey, SunSister, you guys can pick the map this time. You guys can pick, you know, because this trend, if it keeps going, I mean, DeToNator, I mean, okay, yes, they're going to pick the next map. They can't, unfortunately, give the pick over to the enemy team, and that's not actually an advantage.
We pick nothing.
It's not actually a curse.
What if that was like technically not in the rules that you can't pick nothing? And they're like, yeah, we just pick nothing. Nah,
they just
no game.
Roll a dice.
Yeah, they just flip a coin.
Flip a coin, yeah, back to the days of season 1.
Oh, jeez.
You're getting flashbacks from that.
Why would you remind us all?
Yeah, no, I got quite salty over a lot of those.
Yeah, but it gave everyone a really good excuse for being
exactly
bronze.
Right. Like when you lost, you could just you could just blame it on coin flip.
Yeah, like no one in season 1, no one was bad at the game.
Exactly,
right?
it was coin flip.
But now, like if you're in bronze, you're just bad.
Exactly, especially now that the new system's in and there's no draws. What's the new system's for?
There is no excuse. Yeah. So let's maybe be a little more on topic. What might we expect out of this? We haven't actually been too much Escort, and because neither of these teams have picked up a map win until this, we haven't seen either of them on Escort at all. We've really got nothing to go on, so conjecturally, I mean, their options are Dorado, Gibraltar, and the other one.
The other one? Route 66.
Route 66! Which I think we've seen all of once this entire tournament so far.
Well, as it's DeToNator's
what do they go
pick,
for? Actually, I'm having it confirmed. We've actually seen Route 66 twice. But in any case, yeah, what do we think might they go for? I feel like Dorado has actually been the more favored when we do end up on Escort.
Yeah, I mean, Dorado is a map that, once again, it can unlock Farah. We haven't seen them play it except since Numbani, which was also their
Get
map
out
pick
the
as
Dorado
well.
key,
Unlock
go
Farah.
up to the door and unlock Farah.
Exactly, right? I mean, get Farah into the map. You've got Mercy to back it up as well. And we've seen a lot of teams play with some interesting strategies, getting the Farah flank in quite often on the defense on the first checkpoint. A lot of players will use it high ground. They'll even use some kind of clunky strategies like involving May walls to actually get Anna up onto that big archway right at the end of the first checkpoint. I believe we've seen one team do that. I think it was Flash Walls, but in any case,
it works.
Exactly, that's something that can happen, and with the rocket jumps, I'm sure Soldier can do it as well. So being able to deny that positioning with the fire, just shoot a concussive blast into it, and suddenly they're off the high ground, lose a big advantage, and you're also flanking the enemy team, you're very much behind them, and then suddenly they've got to look both ways. You've got a Mercy up there, and unless they've got a very deadly accurate hit scan, who is great at running around corners, because you've got a lot of pillars, a lot of buildings to block line of sight as well, and peek out, shoot rockets whenever you want. It's a great position for a Farah.
Yeah. There are a lot of reasons that it could be Watchpoint Gibraltar, though. And I feel like those reasons are more down to the fact that it is the most recent Escort map that we've seen, and much like these teams can take notes from the losses they've suffered in the games they have played, they can also take notes from what other teams have done, but it's going to be none of those. It's going to be Route 66.
Well,
back at it.
So it's interesting because both teams have shown...
Route 66.
I like it as well. I mean, back in the summer series, I think that was the only map that
I
cast.
Yeah, for like the first 2 weeks or something, it was pretty much
just only Route 66.
Like, not even only Escort, like pretty much the only. I think
that was it.
With how it fell, I actually think you and Easy casted nothing but Route 66 for the whole first weekend.
Yeah, that's what happened, right? I mean, that was interesting. So
you're very familiar with this map, is what we're saying.
I finally learned that the diner is called Big Earl's as well.
It's
not a diner.
It's not even called. It's not even.
It's Big Earl's though.
The diner is called like the. It's
the
called
diner
like
is
the
spawn
Deadlock
room.
Diner or something. No, it's not Deadlock. Okay, so that's the Defender spawn is Deadlock propane and propane accessories. Big Earl's is a service station a gas station or a petrol station, depending on what country you're from.
It's the servo.
No.
The servo.
No, it's
servo,
not.
mate.
No one says that.
Australia does.
Do they actually?
Yeah, they actually call it the servo.
But a servo is already a thing and it's got nothing to do with petrol.
I'm pretty sure they call it a servo.
Okay, any Australians, can you please tweet at @fullcircle_ES and confirm or deny whether you actually call service stations servos? Please, I really want to know this. But in any case, I'm trying to remember what the diner is called. It's got some interest. It's like the Overlook Diner or something, because it's got that nice view sort of built into the rock. I'll be honest, if that was a real place, that would be so cool. It's like a cafe, diner, like tunneled into the rock with this intense view that just goes straight out over this entire bluff. Like, that would be so gorgeous.
But their coffee tastes like dirt, so I don't know. Like, are you going there for the view or are you going there for the coffee, right?
I'm going there for the view. I'm going there for the view out now. I don't care what the coffee tastes like. That's how they can stay in business, even though the coffee tastes like dirt.
I mean, it's also an area controlled by that Deadlock gang.
Who clearly don't have good taste in coffee.
I mean, it's really not a safe space to be. I mean, I don't think. I mean, it's clearly abandoned already. There's literally crashed trains outside.
It's abandoned because there's just been a horrible train crash.
Exactly. I mean, like, Deadlock gang probably caused it, so no one's there anymore. And I mean,
by the way, I've actually been to Route 66. I don't recall any part that looked like that. I was only like 6, but I don't recall anything.
Ironically,
you were
you were 6 on Route 66. Just a cool little coincidence. I like it. But I mean,
you know, there was actually for a time, and I think it's closed now. There was a Route 666, which is a sub-route of Route 66, and for real, they closed it because it had an unusually high crash rate for the amount of traffic it got, and people did actually think it was cursed.
I don't care about your
yeah, who cares about Route 666?
Look what they're doing. This is unheard of. I mean,
Panorama Diner, that's what it's called.
Last time I saw this, who cares about Eben did this last time in the summer series, but look at this.
And you didn't even believe it.
SunSister, they're shocked. They're like, what the heck is going on? You guys, you don't defend there yourself.
Bamboozled, that came out of nowhere, but they're already striking back, picking off Samurai D. I mean, it didn't actually get the mileage they needed, as cutesy as it was, and all they've really done is given up the opportunity to set up a big Earl's defense. So more fool me, DeToNator.
Yeah, I mean, when you see teams do that, usually they're running something that can get a pick, like a Roadhog or even a McCree, just pick someone off straight at the start, get a bit of free ultimate charge. But now SunSister can just, like you said, move forward. They can take control of Big Earl's, the servo, and just hold it from there. They've basically been handed a free 0.1. I mean, DeToNator will get one more fight, but it won't be with any advantage.
I thought Big Earl's was a diner.
Just because I was wrong doesn't mean you have to keep saying it.
Yes,
they got on Big Earl's anyway.
They actually did get an opportunity to set up, but Samurai D again getting picked off at the top of this one, and now closing out on Saihade. It's looking like, again, SunSister are just going to keep the momentum going here. So, yeah, no trouble just keeping this one on the roll.
Kira dies again. Poor guy. Only had to die on SunSister in a lot of these fights. Just constantly harassed by a lot of the Traces and the Genjis, and they're clearly taking advantage of it every single time. Now they're moving forward. SunSister clearly have an ultimate advantage. What's going to matter is when XQQ gets towards that tactical visor, but hey, they're going for one last ditch of defense.
Yeah, really one last ditch, and Zetman actually throwing out the ultimate there for it as well, as Anakin opening up with this Nanoblade combo, but he's just got nothing for it. The Diva is just stopping up everything, and DeToNator, they're now starting to get picked off here if they're not careful. They do get Mollis off the back end and Odinkin out of the mech, as they didn't actually quite close out on Yoshiharu or Anakin, but they do close out on Saihade. Samurai D has an ultimate if he wants to commit it, but I don't actually think they need to. They've kind of got a few frags through, and the commit actually worked, as ropey as it was for a moment there, because they have managed to hold. By the way, I've just heard that on Twitter, Mulves says we do call them servos.
Yeah,
so,
I told you.
Mulves, stop talking smack.
Look, I mean,
here's a real word.
I love the word servo. It's just,
I don't.
It's the most Australian way.
But it's already, servo is already a word for another thing.
No, it's a word for that. Big Earls. Big Earl's the servo.
Oh, it's a service station.
Let's
it's
look at it again,
petrol pump.
They're about to fight. Look, here it comes.
Anakin out of the picture already. That's not even using the ultimate from XQQ. The Transcendence can't keep it alive though, because the Ana Grenade and SunSister, they're actually not got much left to keep this one going, but DeToNator have equally little. The only thing they've got left is the self-destruct, and SunSister looking to get out a few frags here. Struggling to close out the kills, but Saihade overextended. He doesn't get punished for it, and SunSister are kind of forced to retreat here.
They're getting one kill here and there, and that actually matters quite a lot when DeToNator are the defenders. They still have to run back a fair distance, but attack-wise, it has to get value.
Yeah, it has to get a lot of value, but it's not really getting much at all. I think the only thing it's going to get is the LIV. It's actually Mollis who's really doing the work, as XQQ only getting a couple of kills on the back end of it. They were able to strike back there after DeToNator had kind of exhausted themselves, so good patience out of SunSister and good job not dying, so they do get the cap there.
SunSister do not have a lot left in the gas tank, though. Gonna have to stop off at the server to refuel eventually, but continuing the fights, if they can get it up to this bridge before this next fight, that's pretty valuable, and moving forwards to get that position is pretty great. But DeToNator should regroup and get towards the bridge, get that high ground, and should take an early fight, because they should know SunSister just used a lot of ults to capture that checkpoint, which means they're not going to be very good at team fighting.
Well, yeah, you deflect, Anakin. Go you. You're a strong, independent Genji who don't need no kills.
Well, he didn't get any kills, I guess. So
yeah.
I mean, there he goes.
Hey, woohoo! Yeah, he got. I think that was with the deflect actually. So there we go. The deflect works out. The deflect got more than the ultimate did. So here's gonna be Kira though. Gets a kill and then throws out his ultimate just to show how peaceful he truly is. And SunSister, they're just making the space for themselves to keep this one going by once again just out-fragging their opponents.
SunSister were also throwing a bit of resources towards it. Kira throwing out the Transcendence during that fight. Maybe it was to survive a Tracer diving him, but honestly, they're using resources that they probably don't have to, but it also means that they get past the bridge, one of the easiest points to defend from. Now, DeToNator, they might have a shorter run back, but they don't have as many defensive positions to fall back to. And without Samurai D on the defense...
And now they're going to lose Yoshiharu's mech as well. So even if they wanted to commit ultimates, this is a losing fight for them. They commit ultimates anyway. They're going to commit 2 ultimates for this one. They've got Zetman out and actually XQQ, so they might be able to get enough mileage out of those ultimates they've committed, but it means they'll have nothing else after it. And if SunSister are able to turn around, it doesn't look like they are actually, so I'm not even going to bother finishing that thought. Good job, DeToNator.
Yeah, I mean, they can hold it there for sure now that they've actually managed to stabilize. They do still have some high ground advantage. It's not as great as the bridge, but the real advantage they've got is the massive run back that SunSister now have. They have to go through this choke point, through the valley here, or either through the tunnel on the left. And that's quite difficult. Otherwise, you're running along the low ground. Now, XQQ, he does have his tack visor, but there's no nano boost to combo it.
We're going to try and find the angle. Samurai D forced to ult out here, and he's just really stopping XQQ from impacting this fight as Anakin goes in to close it out on him. And those 2 kills should be enough to again repel SunSister, closing out a few more at the back end of this. This time, though, SunSister will be able to come back in with an ultimate advantage.
Yeah, I mean, DeToNator, they did commit some ults to that, but luckily for SunSister, they didn't use anything of their own. So eventually, DeToNator are going to run out of these resources. They don't have Dragon Blade. That's been the biggest thorn in SunSister's side, as well as Samurai D once he's ulting. Now, SunSister, like I said before, they don't have a nano boost, so they need to put some kind of defensive tool onto XQQ. No Zarya, so you're going to have to throw one of the support ultimates, like a sound barrier. Otherwise, that happens.
Yeah, that is not a good start for SunSister at all. That is one of the most important ultimates for them. Mollis! Mollis! They haven't noticed! Oh, no way! No way!
Payload.
Oh my goodness! Payload, payload, payload! Oh, DeToNator.GOLD! They got a great kill to start it off, but they just totally dropped the ball. That was sneaky ninja plays out of Mollis. I'm so impressed.
I wish I could see the player cams, but that is hilarious. Yeah, oh my god.
Just them freaking out like, oh god, oh no, we made a mistake. I wonder if they noticed while it was moving, or whether they didn't notice until the cap went through. In any case, they are now retreating to try and set up a defense here. They are just barely getting a couple of ults up in time, but it's pretty even Steven. So if one team gets more frags than the other, then this could actually close out right here.
I mean, SunSister still technically lost that fight in terms of numbers, but in any way, Anakin's going in.
Yeah, he is, and it's
later,
working
Kira.
out. XQQ getting overpressured as well. The good dive onto them. There's 2 of the ultimates out of DeToNator. And they took that fight very, very early, actually. So SunSister are going to have time to strike back with their own ultimates now.
They did still get the payload around the corner, so SunSister have used a lot of time during the streets phase as well after getting halted right at the end of the second checkpoint, so they do have less than a minute to go. They're actually swapping their team composition up a little bit, possibly for Odinkin to get a lot of value out of these Zarya barriers. I mean, you've got XQQ, who I said before, needs a lot of defense. A lot of defense when he uses that tactical visor. The barrier is one of the best ways to do that. They don't have sound barrier, they don't have transcendence.
Zetman's ulted. He's already had to ult. They do get DeLAV. That's a very good start. They need to keep XQQ alive. They're starting to close it out as they get Yoshiharu as well. There is a long way for this payload to go though, so DeToNator will get a last-ditch fight in front of their respawn as well. So SunSister still have their work cut out for them, but they're going to go ahead and open it up. Sound barrier out to try and counter up the soldier. Oh, but he's still going to get Anakin. That is the key one for them to start it off with. There's not much time left, but the payload's nearly there. Delavi, nothing with the pulse bomb. That's not good news for them, but a great Earth Shatter. They don't quite find Elu. There they go, finally closing it out as Kira comes on in with the Transcendence. Delavi is really the only one contesting this payload, which actually means it's not getting close enough, and DeToNator are kind of striking back. SunSister, they're not quite closing out enough kills on the right people to move the payload in, but now they're going to be able to get it moving again. DeToNator have some respawns coming through, but SunSister about to get a Graviton here. If they can land it well, they can stop these members up. They can get a good wipe here. Anakin gets 2 with his own Dragon Blade instead, though. SunSister, they're still trying to close it out, but they're really struggling here. DeToNator, they have the respawn advantage, and it's really starting to stack up.
And the biggest resource they had during that was the Graviton Surge, completely nullified by Samurai D's barrier. And the respawn advantage is going to eventually overwhelm them.
Mullis, he can't ninja that one through, unfortunately for himself. And once again, because they didn't quite close out all the kills at the exact right time, they just couldn't take it all the way to the end. It's a bit of a repeat of Numbani there in a way, in that they didn't quite set themselves up to close out at the last stretch there. Was a bit of a harder ask though than it was on Numbani, to be sure. But on Numbani, they did still hold DeToNator.GOLD, so you've plenty of space for them to defend.
You've got to feel a little bit awkward as DeToNator though. Letting that second checkpoint go just cost you so much more distance on the third checkpoint as well. It could have been so easy for them to defend. They got the pick at the start of the game, and SunSister weren't anywhere near having a big ultimate advantage with nothing to just overwhelm what DeToNator had on the defense. They could have absolutely just won that fight. They just gave it away, and they paid for it even more by letting the payload just basically get to near the end.
Apparently,
Apparently?
Mulvs isn't the only person who calls it a servo.
I think you're outnumbered here, mate.
I'm still right.
No.
A servo is already a word that exists that does not mean service station. Sorry, Australia, you're wrong in this.
What's a servo?
What other stupid terms you have? Do you call it a moto instead of a motel? Because that's a thing too. That's just a phone. Do you call it a hoto instead of a hotel? Would you say Deado's propos accessoros? Huh? Explain yourself, Australia. This has gone too far. Servers is already a word. You can't just take other words because you want to slang everything up.
So what's a servo?
I'm trying to think of the actual definition. I really want to Google it, but
that's
it's a real
convenient.
thing.
That's
It's a
convenient.
real thing. It's a mechanical term.
Look, okay, if anyone thinks this guy is right, let me know. Tweet to _ES and we'll find out. Use the hashtag OCP as well. But hey, no cheeky defenses coming out from SunSister. They are just simply going to sit on top of the Big L servo. But actually, no, the dive is coming in really early here.
It's coming in very early indeed. And yeah, good moves by DeToNator. They're getting off, picking Zetman. XQQ very pressured, so they're going to have to go into full retreat. They do successfully retreat, unlike what DeToNator did, so they get a bit more of a favored situation to set up a defense here than, again, what DeToNator did. So SunSister should be able to get themselves onto the top of Big Earl.
DeToNator running a really cool composition here. It's a bit of a death ball, but throwing in a bit of dive. Daylight V, he knows that every time he can get into the backline, oh, see ya later, XQQ.
Yeah,
just a few quick
nice
shots.
pick. Anakin making happen here on this McCree. Good work for him. Not quite catching anything with the frag there. They're going to get Kira as well now, but has to retreat. This is all just distance for DeToNator, even as they lose Yoshiharu. Now SunSister is starting to get the kills, but again, DeToNator is still pushing the payload. That's really what's going to count here. But finally, DeToNator going to have to go on the retreat here. Plenty of time to come back in for the offense. And a servo is short for servo mechanism or servo motor.
Or server station.
Which is a noun. And it means
station.
hydraulic, so in a sentence, hydraulic and electrical servo systems. There you go.
All right, I don't believe you. Australia, I think you're right.
Right here. It's right here. You want to take a look? There you go. He's actually trying to cover it with his hand.
Cover what?
Cover the definition of servo. Well, let's take a look at this game. Let's cover the game, actually. As, again, DeToNator are just getting totally routed. Detos, as Australians would say, getting completely shoved back here by SunSister. That was just Mollis stuck in behind them as they tried to retreat, cutting off the path.
Yeah, so, I mean, this all stems from the very first defense that SunSister did. It was a little bit hasty. They lost Zetman at the start of it, but the difference between that and what DeToNator did hiding in the train was completely different, right? SunSister were able to retreat and actually not lose an ultimate advantage. DeToNator, though, have saved up their ultimates. They've gone to the bank, they've invested everything, and now they're going to reap the rewards here. Graviton should build up everyone else's on. Anakin has also swapped onto Soldier, but
yeah,
he's died.
they've got the frag again. Yeah, I mean, that just doesn't matter if he dies. So here we go. They're going to keep this one alive here. DeToNator trying to strike back, but SunSister, they're throwing all their ultimates into it, even though this one's working. DeToNator, they also threw a few too many of their own in there, I would say, but
everyone used their ults.
yeah, they are actually going to be the team coming into this with a couple in the pocket here. I don't know. This is going to be a tricky one to call this next fight.
The question is, has SunSister stabilized yet? They threw a lot of ultimates into it, forced quite a few out of DeToNator, who, by the way, swapping a lot of heroes. You're moving to Love onto the Roadhog now. That can get a lot of instant value. You get one hook, suddenly you have a massive advantage. It can also pull someone off of Big Earl servo, and then you can win a fight that way. SunSister, what have they got to deal with? That XQQ has to be dived onto.
Once again, Mollis going around the backside of this. Great sticky down, gets Sayhadi. That's a good way to go. Kira does get traded back onto, but losing their frontline tank is a death sentence for DeToNator here, as all they've really found has been Kira. Odinkin barely gets back into the mech at the last second, and they're getting the kills onto DeToNator, who are struggling to cap this first point.
Oh, and this last death here is going to stagger it out so much. I mean, yes, there's 40 seconds to go for DeToNator to throw in one more push, but this is the first checkpoint, let's not forget. SunSister pushed it almost all the way to the end. DeToNator have a very long way to go. They don't even have any ultimates. Right now, Anakin is going to be their best bet. No nano boost, no sound barrier. They don't even have a Zarya to throw a barrier onto him. He's going to be a complete target, and SunSister need to recognize this and jump right on top of him immediately.
Yeah.
Odinkin's done it before, surely he'll do it again.
Anakin has got that tag visor opened out now, looking to catch some backliners, some of the squishier members, and unfortunately he hasn't been spotted out by Sayhadi. He's going to go down there. Sorry, spotted out by Odinkin, who's out of the mech, but yes, Sayhadi going down as well. This is really, really messy, but DeToNator are keeping alive for just long enough. Oh, XQQ getting that trade back there is going to be key even as he goes down. It's still anyone's fight, but I think it's starting to swing the way of SunSister now as Zetman throws out the ultimate. Samurai D is just two angry gorillas swinging fists at each other.
Two angry scientists.
Now, yeah, angry scientists. Odinkin, angry scientists like in that march today. That's a great ultimate out just to zone DeToNator off. They're not going to be able to touch this point in any significant fashion. It's just buying seconds here for Delavi, but he's going to go down. Sound barrier for Elu to secure it for his team, and that is going to be a nice clean one for SunSister to, hey presto, even it up. Once again, DeToNator's pick, SunSister's win. We're going to a game 5.
Break out the silver scrapes. It's going back to the hybrid style map, and if we go all the way back to Numbani, we can remember that it was actually SunSister that won that one.
Was SunSister's
if we follow that trend, SunSister will win the whole series.
Well, okay, no, because there's two trends we could follow. One is the trend of teams winning the other team's map pick. The other is this trend of SunSister seeming a little favored on hybrid and escort. Now, my heart says the first one's what's going to happen, but my head definitely says that SunSister should be a little bit favored coming into hybrid off the back of this.
Let's also not forget, SunSister have already played an entire series before this. This is the only series for DeToNator today. They're coming in fresh. SunSister also, quite honestly, got rolled by Blank earlier today, which means that they weren't even able to get momentum going for the series, so they don't even have that to fall back on as much of an advantage as we like to call it. So DeToNator coming into this fresh. SunSister, 5th match. This is their 8th match today. Fatigue has to surely start to set in, but I mean, look at it. I mean, they're providing results. They've already picked up 2 wins, and even still pulling out unique strategies like Mollis sneaking behind the back lines, capping that payload. Someone has to clip that. That was hilarious.
They're going to have nightmares about that.
I mean,
poor guys.
The way that SunSister defended made it not matter anyway, but like,
I actually saw a play of the game. I don't even think it was the play of the game actually, but I saw a clip on Reddit earlier this week actually, where someone capped the end. They capped the final point. I can't even remember who it was or what the map was or anything like that, but that's how it happened. And it was something like a Lucio, and they just sat on the payload while the team was busy off fighting elsewhere and just won the whole game for them.
The best part?
Now, DeToNator may feel a little bit silly, but whoever that team was must feel so stupid to let that happen.
I mean,
that's like stress test weekend where everyone was bad at the game. That's the only time I think that was acceptable.
I mean, the only thing that it's really going to affect in this series, because of how, SunSister's defense actually turned out, is it's only going to be a little bit demoralizing for DeToNator right now. So
Yeah.
at least they can sit back and say, well, we didn't lose the game because of it, but at the same time, you can't be feeling too great about that.
No, definitely not.
And 5 games is still a long amount of time for fatigue to start setting in as well. I mean, you're also playing at a live venue in front of a crowd as well, so you're face to face with your opponents.
And you don't want to be the one team to not get any wins this first round robin. Now that's true for both of them, sure, but I mean, like we said, now coming back onto hybrid, given that SunSister, first they won Numbani, hybrid map, and they were much cleaner than DeToNator, as much as it got close to the end. I kind of spoke about this just after that. As much as it got close to the end for both teams in terms of distance, it was harder for DeToNator to get there, and SunSister looked better the whole way through.
Yeah.
And now on Route 66, much more one-sided. That was SunSister nearly getting it all the way to the end, and DeToNator not even capping the first point. So I think after that, given that Numbani was a little tighter, this one a little bit more open in favor of SunSister, if that particular trend continues, then not only is this going to be a SunSister win, it's going to be a SunSister like nice shutout on Escort or hybrid, I suppose.
Also, let's remember, right? They can't pick Numbani again.
Yeah, I was going to say, it also can't be Numbani, so what else do they have in the pocket?
So also, the big difference as well is the first point. Numbani is quite different to a lot of other hybrid maps where it's kind of even for both the attackers and the defenders. It's quite a long run back for the offense as well as the defense, so it's a little bit even in that regard. On things like Eichenwald, Hollywood, and the one more hybrid map, which is Kings Row, the run back is much longer for the defenders. So that style is definitely going to favor the teams that can attack that first point very well, or even teams that have some kind of unique strategy to hold that first point for as long as possible.
Yeah, well, all these questions will be answered in a few short moments. We are first going to go to a quick break, and that means that this is your last opportunity to go into the running for our mug giveaway. Slam it out, boys, in the chat. !mug.
It's right there.
Oh,
see?
I couldn't see it because of your other hand.
Right.
Yeah, it's
I'm
right.
So,
It's
I'm
right.
so sorry.
It's there. I don't know if it's still there, but !mug in the chat. You can also check out our Twitter if you want other details, just in case this all wasn't clear enough. And we will be right back with this 5th game of this final match of round robin number 1 of the Overwatch Pacific Championship in a few minutes, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back. You've now had 3 whole minutes for your 2-minute noodles to cool down. And we are back for game 5 now between SunSister and DeToNator.GOLD. If you are just tuning in, well, this has been a tight and very interesting series between these two teams who are both yet to pick up a series win.
And one of them will have to win a series after the end of tonight. In fact, after
they just agree to draw. All good.
No, okay. They removed draws from the game with the last patch, so it's not going to be possible, and it's not going to be possible on Kings Row either, because there's now that percentage style on the capture point, so you can't even draw with the very first point held.
And before that, we actually were using golden point for this tournament as well.
Yeah,
so
okay,
like
so
technically
no
they couldn't draw, but they could just like shake hands on it. Like let's just both.
No, no draws. Only one survivor here. Only one team.
Wait a minute, hold on. What happens? Let's say both teams full hold. What happens?
What if
I
they like
suppose it
literally? I think.
I guess that would still go to golden point. Like, I mean, that's still like a mechanism that exists. But I mean, the percentage doesn't help there.
I think that technically actually does still result in a draw, but in any case, I think if a team gets literally 0% on the point, then well, the team to attack second is definitely going to abuse that.
I mean, yeah, but what if they don't?
Look, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
It's almost certainly not going to happen. But technically, that is a situation in which we could get a draw on the map itself. But like I said, I'm pretty sure at that point we go to golden point, because that has been how draws been resolved in the past before.
It's not going to happen.
It's
not going to happen. So it's all right.
Well, it might. I mean, you can't technically say it's not going to happen. Like,
look, I mean,
technically it can. It's probably not going to, but technically it could.
After what Mollis did, I think anything is possible.
Anything can happen. Yeah.
So
that's what happens. It's about to happen, and then in overtime, Mollis just steps on the point. It gets 0.01 of a percentage, and they win. I mean, that's how this game is going to play out. GG SunSister.
They probably do that anyway. I mean, they deserve to lose if they got. If they had 0% on the attack.
If DeToNator feel a little embarrassed about what happened before, if that was how they lost this, Mollis being sneaky,
All right.
it would haunt their dreams. Like, it would be dishonor on their family.
Let's talk about King's Row. Now, first point is going to be the first thing we talk about because clearly that's where all stories begin, at the beginning. So,
yeah.
What a team's going to run. It's going to be all about who attacks first, and as this is SunSister's pick? No, yes, it is SunSister's pick. So that means I also get to pick sides. Now, with the new system, I am a strong believer that attacking second is definitely the more favorable option to pick here, simply because it gives you more options in how you approach the point, especially if you get a full held or it results in time bank, because when you're attacking after the first team, you know whether you can just send some cheeky flanks over to get some percentage on the point, especially if it's a very low amount. First team has to assume that they're going to fully capture the point. You have way more information to work with when you're attacking second.
I don't disagree, but the other side of that, I suppose, is, if you will, the argument for wanting to attack first is basically getting to sound out your opponent. I mean, if you do just outmaneuver them on that first one, then you actually set an unwinnable precedent, and then when you're on the defense, you kind of know what the other team is willing to pull out on that map. So both those options. Let's talk about these picks. These are interesting.
Yeah, we've got some things to talk about. Anakin on the Sombra. This has been done before by a team. I believe it was actually DeToNator against Flash Wolves. Now, he just goes in, hacks some health packs, gets a very, very, very early EMP, and just EMPs everyone. SunSister need to recognize this and split the heck up.
Yeah. And,
or just go aggressive.
Or just go aggressive indeed. Zetman going down though, they're kind of struggling to pull out that exact aggression as DeToNator are going to set themselves up on this point.
Yeah, I mean, DeToNator deserved that. I mean, SunSister went way too aggressive. Zetman died way too early. He's actually changed over to Reinhardt in a last-ditch effort to try and defend the point. But however, it's simply just not going to happen. There's no way SunSister get back in time to defend, but they're actually going to try. The point is almost capped.
Badly, yeah. I mean, really, that's just throwing bodies at the point and giving DeToNator ult charge, I feel. They've already lost XQQ at the top of it. I mean, how much more could they really get out of that? Now losing Zetman, Odin about to get popped out of the mech as well. They should have just backed off. They should have just done the correct thing, let the point get capped, go for an early fight to draw out ultimates, then look for a later fight. SunSister have absolutely dropped the ball on the macro play here, and now the question is, can they recover?
Samurai did super duper aggressive there, but so is the rest of his team to back him up as well. Now, as you said, SunSister essentially only bought about 20 seconds by throwing their bodies at the point there. DeToNator now have so much to work with, especially that EMP. They've got De La Vie, who is just ready to get picks at the start of every fight. Now, DeToNator, they're not playing too aggressively, not positioning forward. They're opting to keep basically their entire team sitting on the point. De La Vie is going to be trying to be sneaky, trying to channel a Zaputo by being in interesting positions as Roadhog. Getting that one hook can just easily win them the fight, but most importantly, without having to use ultimates.
Most important indeed. There's the EMP to come out. They throw out a great Earth Shatter as well. It's a lot of SunSister members low. Now they're starting to close out the kills. That is very, very good for them, and they're keeping the momentum going on their side, really. Part of it is just good execution, part of it is SunSister kind of flubbing the macro, but all of it is resulting in a push payload.
It's also not recognizing the win condition that DeToNator have. EMP to get rid of that Reinhardt shield, and suddenly nothing is in your way for your own Earth Shatter. Samurai D gets a really big one, and then they just follow it up with a biotic grenade to easily win the fight. Now, Anakin as well, one of those ults was EMP. Very easy to charge, but how far is Samurai D charging?
Once again, SunSister finding nothing. Elu getting picked up as well. Mollis committing the tactical visor and not finding anything for it is very, very unfortunate for them. DeToNator should be able to just completely cap this point. So this time around, SunSister again losing the fight and also losing ultimates for it. DeToNator, they did commit a couple, but they'll get a few back up now, and they should still again be able to keep the momentum on their side.
Now expect DeToNator to use this momentum to start positioning forward, start taking risky fights, throwing out ults where maybe perhaps you're not expecting them to. And that's because they're going to go for a high risk, high reward. If they win a fight here, they almost win the point. But if they lose, they're simply probably going to swap team compositions anyway. Anakin still doesn't have his EMP up yet. Needs to hack a few health packs anyway. But look, they've already got a pick.
Yeah, they've already got Zetman. They are consistently getting these picks, and that means that Elu's sound barrier couldn't even save Zetman's life. It just does nothing. That was one of the few ultimates that they actually had. Yeah, now watch for the EMP. And also Samurai D's Earth Shatter. They got all the tools they need to open up the end of this defense here. Look at Anakin trying to get him to position for it. Oh, he's well set up.
No way. Earth Shatter
he's in behind all of them. And the Earth Shatter with the shield not there to block it. Zetman charged way up. That is a very deep Samurai D as he kills one. forces the healer back. Sayhai are the only ones to go down, and there's such a tiny amount of distance left here. SunSister have to constantly keep feet on this point, and they're not going to be able to do it for 4 whole minutes. Not in any way, shape, or form. It's only a matter of time here, and DeToNator.GOLD absolutely steamroll on the offense there.
What?
The Earthshatter totally whiffs from Zetman, and this should be the fight that closes it out for DeToNator, surely.
DeToNator need to be very careful though to not lose any members. De La Vie has been on the brink of death for the longest time. Needs to not lose a single member here, because that is where the respawn advantage will come out and overwhelm you.
Yeah, there we go. The sleep onto Elu. They're just looking to close out the last one. I mean, credit where credit's due. SunSister have bought a ton of time here, but it is still, like I said, only a matter of time, and at 3:42, the cap goes through, and DeToNator start to finish absolutely steamrolled SunSister.
DeToNator identifying how they're going to win fights and absolutely connect on that, right? They saw, especially during Streets phase, was the cleanest use of their ultimates I've ever seen. Break the Reinhardt barrier with EMP, follow it up with an Earthshatter. That's the easiest team fight you're ever going to win, short of Roadhog hooking everyone. So if they just do that on the defense, then this should be an easy first hold for them.
Something very important I need to talk about, though.
Is it Servo again?
No.
Okay, good.
Mug.
Mug?
Mug.
Go ahead.
Mug. Mug.
Mug.
Mug.
Mug.
Mug. Mug. Mug. Mug. Mug. It's your last chance to enter the mug giveaway draw! Exclamation mark mug in the Twitch chat. Check out the Twitter if those instructions were really not clear enough. Like I said, final chance, get in quick. Get onto that mug. It could be all yours right here, right now. And you know what else could be all someone's? That was a weird segue. His match could be all DeToNator's after that offense. And now, well, you reckon second offense is better, but after that, SunSister have their work cut out for them.
Second offense is better when you're sitting at the start of a match. Not when you've just been 3-capped by the enemy team with a fair amount of minutes to go in the time bank. Now, it's completely all on SunSister to go in. No, sorry, on DeToNator to go in. No, it was SunSister who defended, right? Yes.
Yes, that's what we just saw.
Yeah, that's what we saw. So SunSister are now facing a very hard situation. Now, again, we've seen a lot of teams fully cap King's Row, and then the next team to attack just does it again, but with even more time left in the bank. Will that be the case here? Are we going to see Sombra? All found out now.
No, not quite.
I mean, XQQ probably going to change off the Hanzo, so it's still possible. But SunSister, he's not changing.
This is happening.
No, he'll change. There we go.
There we go. He spotted them out. Like, we have actually seen that done. We saw it done quite a while ago. I haven't seen it done more recently, but hey. Okay, he changed to something just as bizarre. It's the Junkrat.
Okay. So they've done this before, and what it's great at is breaking down these barriers almost immediately. Junkrat has one of the best tools to actually break the Reinhardt barrier, but he needs to not die at the start of it.
Yeah, well, Samurai D going down at the top. They do actually trade back onto Kira. That's pretty good for them, but now XQQ's Junkrat is starting to do the work. Even though SunSister have lost a couple of members, I lie. SunSister now losing XQQ is kind of a death sentence. They didn't really contest Anakin. That was probably the more important one to be catching rather than these backliners. So SunSister repelled on this one, and they're going to have to try and find their way back in. Oh, Odenkirn, is this going to be a pet diva? No, they're letting him retreat.
Nah, letting him go back home. Letting him run home to the respawn point. Now, XQQ, he's swapping heroes several times. Now, finally settling down onto that Roadhog. It's an interesting choice. Odenkin also swapping over to D.Va. Now, I like this because Anakin is constantly demanding respect. You have to get up there and actually shut him down with that defense matrix. He's going to have tactical visor. Nanoboost is still a little while away, but it's definitely something you've got to be worried about. And look at both the tanks. This is great. I'd like to see them up here. Even here with Mollis, this should force Anakin off of the high ground at the very worst, ironically.
Yeah, well, here we go. Mollis committing the pulse bomb and finding nothing for it. Anakin with the tech visor running now gets Kira. That's a good one to start it off. Trying to get the second heal, but he doesn't quite find it. Gets taken down for his trouble. Now SunSister may want to try and commit to this fight, but I don't actually think they've got the mileage for it once again. The ultimate's still on DeToNator's side as they commit a great graviton to clean it up. And again, this is DeToNator. When they hit their stride, they do this so often. They get so much for so few ultimates.
Ladies and gentlemen, we could be just over 2 minutes away from the end of the final round of the first round robin in the Overwatch Pacific Championship. Now, SunSister, they've only got a limited amount of time. They're still sticking to this Roadhog. They need to get value out of it. Yes, their tanks are flying up and dealing with Anakin. He's usually not a threat, but I mean, think about it. Last time he had his ultimate, he still managed to get a kill out of it. They're engaging onto the fight once more, but Anakin's on a hike. No, he got dropped down.
But he got forced down, and Zetman's pressuring him. Zetman's popping the ultimate to secure it too. Now he's going to come into the backside of DeToNator here, swinging around like a madman. He's lost a few friendly members of his team. DoToNator does push out the sound barrier to keep the rest of his team in this fight for a moment longer, but the pressure continues from SunSister. They do have people on the point, forcing the members of DeToNator back, but they've got the tanks alive. That's what counts, and the Graviton to boot. They're going to catch up once again. So much of SunSister in that, and wow, what a play.
And the biggest reason for that was so much of the damage for SunSister died near the start of that fight. XQQ, essentially a DPS in this, died very early on, and then there's only Mollis trying to deal damage as Tracer through a sound barrier. DeToNator were able to hold on, and even though they lost Anakin, they still had enough damage of their own through Samurai D, who was close enough with the Reinhardt, who does a huge amount of damage with that hammer, and De La V still finding targets on a sound barrierless team.
This is it. This is where the fatigue sets in. You're 8 games deep into your day, and you face being the only team in this tournament to pick up no wins as Zetman gets picked off at the top of this fight. His fellow tank XQQ again. They need to back up now, and with 30 seconds left, they may have one chance left, but it is only one.
Oh no, if he gets caught out here. Okay, he's alright. He's alright. Calm down, but look at all the ultimates that DeToNator still have. No Graviton.
He's not fine. Odinkin's out of the mech, and they're going to play Pet Diva.
That's the worst possible situation right now, but SunSister don't have a choice. They have to go in.
They've got to commit as Anakin throws out his ultimate, and already they find XQQ with the pulse bomb. Anakin caught napping. That's a good Earth Shatter as well to catch out Zetman and all the rest. And despite finally getting toes on the point, there is no significant progress, not even percentage, as the final wipe of the game comes through, and SunSister are going to be the only team to lose all of their matches in the first round robin of the Overwatch Pacific Championship, and DeToNator.GOLD, at the very end of it all, are finally going to put a win on the board.
And what a fantastic series as well. We saw strengths and weaknesses from both teams, but in the end, like you said, DeToNator.GOLD, the only team here out of Japan to actually pick up a win in the series here. But moving on to King's Row here, their attack was absolutely flawless. Every plan they had, very deliberate, very intentional, and just executed perfectly. I mean, look at this. This is exactly what we're talking about. Samurai D during that fight does so much damage. There's just way too much for them to handle, and he was able to get into that position simply because his team was too tanky for the very low DPS attack from SunSister to actually deal with.
Yeah, I mean, it was just well executed. I mean, if SunSister's win on Escort was great, this was even better. This was a full march to the end for DeToNator, and then a full hold at the top, very first point. That's phenomenal. That's the kind of stuff we normally see when these teams play teams like Flash Wolves and like Blank, and even then, they actually performed better, SunSister, against Blank and Flash Wolves in so doing. So, wow.
Remember, these teams are friends as well, and look, I mean, showing great sportsmanship there, shaking hands and everything, but you've got to remember that these guys know each other. They're from the same region, and we actually have, you know, video proof that there are friends in each of these teams having a friendly rivalry as well, so...
But, I mean,
Elu
still got a sting, even when it comes from your friend there. Poor Elu.
Didn't manage to pick up that win against his friend. It was the one thing that he said he wanted to do. But hey, look, there's still 3 more rounds of this round robin to go. SunSister are definitely not out of this just yet. They can still come back and beat DeToNator, and hey, maybe even pick up a few wins against some of the other teams as well. They've got a lot to work with after this last weekend. Very much impressed me.
They actually have. That's the thing that's almost so unfortunate about this happening in the last game for them, is they suddenly started showing a whole chunk of promise over this weekend specifically against 2 of the hardest teams to play against, being Flash Wolves and Blank. And now, I mean, to take away the positive from this, they have picked up at least a map win. They've even picked up 2. So it's so unfortunate that they weren't able to close out the win, because it would have been the exact boost that they needed. And so at the end of the first round robin, here are the standings. Of course, Blank Esports still sitting undefeated at the top there, 7-0, closely followed by Flash Wolves, AHQ Esports Club, Hong Kong Attitude, Fireball, Matchy Esports, DeToNator.GOLD, and SunSister. Every single team having lost to the teams above them.
Makes it very easy to rank the teams right now.
Very,
after
very
one
easy.
round. And remember, this isn't like a round robin where you've just played one team in one round, right? These are all best of fives, right? In a lot of tournaments, this is what would kick teams down to a lower bracket or even fully out of the tournament if we were playing bracket style. So these teams have actually proven themselves against the teams that they've already played and won against, especially Blank, even though some of their matches did end up being close. But the best thing to remember right now is that, like, again, these are best of fives. They've proven themselves on different types of maps against the teams that they have won against.
All right, well, for those of you who have stuck around this far, your patience shall be rewarded, and I hope you are all people who entered the mug giveaway, because we know who has won the mug giveaway. We've actually got a little card up here, so maybe you do have a tiny split-second moment, but we know who's going to be the winner. Let's have ourselves a little bit of a drum roll. That really was a little drum roll.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be careful. It's a nice desk.
The reveal is coming, and the reveal is going to be R110.
Is that the new droid in the Star
I think
Wars
that's
movie?
the actual name, R110 in Twitch. Congratulations, you are the winner of tonight's mug giveaway. Spicy Salsa will be in touch with you, and you are going to win yourself a mug filled with salsa, or maybe just a mug.
I don't think it's
filled
going
with
to be.
that.
Yeah.
Probably that would be a bit weird to ship. But there you go. He will contact you and sort out all the whys and wherefores of shipping a mug direct to you. You enjoy that mug there, R10.
Congratulations, anonymous droid from Star Wars. It's exactly what it sounds like, right?
It actually is. But everyone on the internet is a robot but me.
Exactly,
so there
right?
you go. Well, congratulations, and yeah, let's just have a final retrospective, not just on the night, but let's give some quick thoughts on this first round robin as a whole, because very rarely do we see a tournament end up with standings this clean that show how exactly these teams sit one up against the other. Like, it is clean the whole way through. That's pretty incredible after this many matches and these so far 3 weeks of play. So what shakeups might we expect moving into the second round robin, and where might they come from?
So if anyone's going to upset another team, it's going to be Hong Kong Attitude, right? Blank have already said specifically that that's the team that they're most worried about, yet they're sitting down in 4th place. The reason that Blank, specifically Goomba, said this was because he felt that they ran a lot of the same compositions and really gave them a run for their money, right? I mean, the result was 3-2, Blank's favor. So Hong Kong Attitude were the team to get Blank the closest to actually losing a map. So I think Hong Kong Attitude absolutely have what it takes to take out AHQ or Flash Wolves. I think both of their results against those teams were 3-1, so they still have the ability to actually win maps against those teams.
AHQ was 3-2. AHQ was that was the first match this tournament to go to a Game 5 actually, and I've already spoken about it a couple of times because it was Hong Kong Attitude getting 2 good wins and then 3 narrow losses. And you can almost read that as being Hong Kong Attitude potentially being the stronger team despite the loss. And we'll have to see when they come in for the rematch. I would say, though, if an upset is going to come out of anywhere, it's going to be out of Fireball.
That's another team.
Yeah, at the end of last week, turned it around, honestly. Having picked up some really stiff losses against teams in this tournament. And those teams had been actually the top few teams in the tournament. It had been losses against teams like Blank, against teams like Flash Wolves. I believe they had lost to either Hong Kong Attitude or AHQ at that point. Then suddenly picked up a pair of wins and looked really, really good. Looked like they hit their stride. It hasn't been this absolute dominant blitz from then on. There are still things to work on, but they're finding things that work. And they are actually back on the up. So I feel like if an upset, a true upset is going to come out of anywhere, it'll be from Fireball. Fireball. But to speak to Hong Kong Attitude, they are a team that is still pushing for top 4. They need to beat either AHQ or Flash Wolves, ideally both, to really push for that. And the question is going to be, can they do it? I think they can, and I'm really excited to see how it pans out.
So the thing is, I'm going to talk about the true gatekeeper in these rankings so far. And as much as you're talking about Fireball able to maybe pull out an upset, Hong Kong Attitude are sitting right there at 4th place, blocking every team below them. Hong Kong Attitude 3-0'd every single team below them, including Fireball, right, which happened today. And Fireball, despite what they've been doing in some of their more recent matches, were not looking on form at all.
Yeah, a little bit unfortunate. There's a lot we can take away from these standings. I don't want to go too much in terms of this, who's going to make top 4, who isn't going to make top 4, but I think the things we know for sure are Blank and Flash Wolves both are playoffs teams. It's unclear who the third is going to be. Now, there's still a lot of tournament ahead of us. So both of those two teams could suddenly start dropping. That's still very much a possibility, but so far it is really looking that way. There's still questions about the rest of them because of how matches like HKA versus AHQ went and so on and so forth. But the other thing that is quite clear, Taiwan has two very strong teams and one that is really struggling, and that's Matchy. So they have to turn it around if we really want to get a lot of Taiwanese teams pushing into this one. And you can imagine, you know, having the home crowd and everything, you know, the tournament being based out of Taipei, this is something that they would love to have happen. I can guarantee you that, having the you know, the whole home playoffs, but actually have a lot to prove if that is ever going to happen.
I think the key thing to remember as well is that these bottom three teams are really struggling to make it up into the higher rankings. I mean, sure, they can maybe take some games off of each other, especially between the bottom two, but they're really struggling to take it to the top, especially with, like I said before, gatekeeper Hong Kong attitude. And maybe if they beat AHQ in the next round, then AHQ might become the gatekeeper at 4th place. That's really where the teams in the bottom 4 are really going to have to start to prove themselves if they can make it even further.
Yeah, we are going to start seeing things like that emerge, gatekeepers and whatnot. We will see teams rise, we will see teams fall, but for now, we have seen all the teams play each other once, some with the home, some with the away, and we will see those again. Each team is going to get 2 homes, 2 aways over the course of the whole tournament. And that's going to be it now for the first round robin of the Overwatch Pacific Championship. Of course, there is no break between the round robins. We roll straight back into it same time next week. To do a quick recap of the night, though, we did, of course, have DeToNator coming up against AHQ. Sorry, that is a lie. That's next week. That's this time next week. Here we go. Flash Wolves taking out Fireball, then going on to take out Hong Kong Attitude. Then we saw SunSister dropping a series to Blank, and then coming up against the fellow Japanese squad in DeToNator.GOLD, and also, unfortunately, picking up the loss.
It's been a fantastic night of matches. In fact, a fantastic whole first round of a round robin. We've really got a good feel for all the teams and their rankings, where they all sit. But hey, we've got to wait for next week to find out more.
Yep. So definitely be sure to tune in next week. We'll be back on the Friday once again, 2 matches then, and then 4 on both the Saturday and Sunday. And we will see you there. But for now, thank you so much for tuning in to the official English broadcast of the Overwatch Pacific Championship. I have been Mac Pixie Carroll. Joining me here has been Matt Smite Ross. And earlier in the night, we have, of course, had Kevin Everett Walker and Dallas Easy Fight Titty. From all of us here at the Full Circle production team, thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful night.